Alrighty, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are going to be doing Enchanted tonight. Disney's Enchanted, one of the most underrated but fun Disney movies. We are the Quarantine Theater Company. And tonight we have a wonderful, talented cast. I myself will be playing Giselle. We have Jared, who will be Prince Edward. And then we have Anne, who will be Nancy. And Kevin will be Robert. We have Travis filling in a whole bunch of roles for us, including a troll and a floozy. We have Jennifer as our Queen Nerissa. Eric will be playing Pip. Angie will be Morgan, cute little Morgan. And George will be Nathaniel. And Paul is doing our scene description. So yay! Thank you everybody for joining us. And now we can, let's get this party started.
Enchanted by Bill Kelly. Over black, we hear the opening strains of a lush, classic orchestral theme. As we fade in, slowly spiraling downwards towards an ancient embossed storybook, its covering boasting the title of the story we're about to tell, Enchanted. As the book slowly opens of its own accord, a sonorous, deep-voiced narrator reads the only words that could possibly start our story.
Once upon a time.
Pushing through the ornate O and once, we suddenly burst into exterior in Enchanted Kingdom, animated day. Boasting the bluest sky we've ever seen, we follow the bright rays of a radiantly golden sun downward.
In an enchanted kingdom known as Andalasia.
As they explode like fireworks off the spires of a grand and magnificent castle, nestled in the valley below is a quaint village of thatched cottages and cobblestone streets, and beyond, an endless forest, stand after stand of very tall ancient trees. Moving towards the castle, we glide through an open window into interior, the royal gallery, continuous. We glide down a long hallway of stoic royal paintings past a kindly portrait of a gentle old king, suddenly stopping on.
There ruled an evil queen named Nerissa.
A garish, ridiculously oversized vanity portrait of an icily beautiful woman, Queen Nerissa.
Selfish and vain, her greatest fear was that one day she'd be forced to hand her crown over to her stepson.
We dolly to a modest painting of a regally handsome young man,
Prince Edward.
As suddenly the painting's mouth starts to talk.
Dang it! What in the son of a...
A wiggling lump underneath and giving the eerie illusion of speech. Ka-chunk! The painting suddenly falls to the floor, followed a moment later by the lump in question, a deviously smart chipmunk, Pip. Standing up, Pip quickly dusts himself off, his gaze landing on a bent nail that was holding up the painting. Curiously eyeing the nail, an excited Pip looks nervously to his left and right, impetuously popping it in his cheek. Boom! The gallery doors burst open and a royal guard steps in.
Who's in here?
The guard looks up to see a painting escaping 2 furry feet beneath it, seemingly moving by itself through the gallery. The guard shouts out in alarm, the other guards answering. While at the gallery window, with nowhere else to run, Pip desperately drags the painting onto the marble ledge, last panicked look back at the approaching guards as he leaps. Exterior, the castle, continuous. We hear a loud swoosh, the canvas puffing up as Pip swings from the picture wire, gleefully floating on his hang glider away from the castle. Exterior, the village, continuous. Over the quaint picturesque village below and into exterior, the surrounding forest continuous, where Pip happily flies through the forest canopy towards a quaint treehouse. Suddenly, losing control of his craft, he spirals and twists until he is headed straight towards the wooden shutters. Interior, the treehouse, continuous. We move past a friendly skunk, rabbit, and bluebird as they pass a walnut to a beautiful young maiden propped on a stool, Giselle. Gentle and sweet with sparkling eyes and long blonde hair, Giselle carefully glues a walnut to a life-size person-shaped statue made of found forest items. Bam! There's a loud smashing sound at her window as Giselle tumbles back her animal pals catching her fall, a startled Giselle swings open her shutters, surprised to suddenly find herself face to face with the handsome prince.
Oh my goodness!
A smashed up Pip plastered up against one of the swaying shutters. Giselle's surprise turns to a disapproving nod as Pip climbs down.
Pip, what in the world have you taken now?
Oh, Giselle, you know, sometimes I can't help myself. I was looking for this.
Pip tugs a comb full of regal blonde hair out of his cheek.
When I happened to see that, I thought since you like to think about the prince and the two of them being, well, together, with your favorite chipmunk at your royal side, of course.
Silly Pip, Prince Edward and I? Oh, it's almost too much to hope for. I can't even imagine.
We pull out wide to reveal that Giselle has indeed imagined it. Her entire room is a testament to a teen girl obsession with him. Prince needlepoints, heart-filled doodles and drawings. Giselle adds the curl of hair from the prince to her statue, his features suddenly coming into focus to reveal it's Prince Edward.
You know, that's a palace painting, Pip. We could get in a lot of trouble.
You want me to take him back?
Well, maybe not right away.
Holding up the painting, Giselle smiles, an unconscious twirl in her step as she studies it closer.
It isn't every day we have royalty in the house.
Well, aren't you two going to say hello?
I'm not sure what to say. Not that I haven't thought about it.
Giselle stares almost shyly at the prince's somber visage. It's the closest she's ever come to him. She reaches out a hesitant hand to touch his painted face. A dreamy sigh escapes her lips, following a moment later by a soft song as she starts to sing.
When you meet with someone who was meant for you, before two can become one, there's something you must do. No, they need something sweeter. Everybody needs. I've been dreaming of a child of you. I've got things I'm hoping to witness. That's what brings ever after being so happy. That's the reason we miss so much. Our lips are the only things that touch. So to spend our life endlessly, just find who you love through true love's kiss.
And a friend she's hoping come with this. That's what brings everlasting memories. Live so much, warmth are the only things that touch.
So to spend our life all in this place. Just find true love through true love's kiss.
Exterior, another part of the forest, continuous. Carrying royal banners, guards on horseback escort a cage carrying a large, nasty, drooling troll. Bringing up the rear is an officious-looking valet, Nathaniel. Next to him, Prince Edward reclines backwards on his horse, wistful and world-weary.
He's an extremely ugly troll, sire. You've really outdone yourself this time.
I'm tired of trolls, Nathaniel. I long for a different prize. I wish I had a Beautiful young
Beautiful
maiden.
young maiden.
My
My
heart's
heart's one desire.
My
one and only.
Do you think I'll ever find her, Nathaniel?
You know how I delight in fulfilling your every whim, your grace. We'll find her, no matter how distant, how remote, how impossibly far away she be.
As if on cue, we suddenly hear Giselle singing very nearby. Entranced, Edward stops his horse, cupping his hand to hear.
What a glorious sound! Do you hear that, Nathaniel?
No, actually, I don't hear a thing.
I must find the maiden that owns that voice. Ride, Destiny!
Edward dives into the forest in search of his enchanting girl. A look of sheer panic crosses Nathaniel's face.
Oh dear, the Queen's not going to like this.
He quickly rides up to the cage, turning to the large, ugly troll with a patronizing smile.
You seem like a fetching fellow.
The troll belches. Nathaniel reacts to the troll's wretched. Nathaniel leans in and conspiratorial whisper.
How would you like to get the girl?
Girls smell pretty.
Ka-chink! Nathaniel surreptitiously unlocks the cage, and the troll leaps out. Nathaniel watches his escape with smug triumph. Exterior of the forest continuous. As the prince rides quickly through the woods, the troll suddenly runs past him towards the source of the lovely song. The girl! Alarmed, Prince Edward digs his spurs in and takes off after him. Exterior, the top of the tree continuous. Still humming her song, Pip and Giselle climb higher and higher, the ground receding below as she stretches to glimpse the prince.
Can you see him yet?
I'm trying. Maybe if I just climb a little higher.
Pip watches concerned as she climbs higher, unaware that below, exterior the bottom of the tree continuous. The troll eyes Giselle hungrily as he scrambles up towards her. Exterior the forest continuous. Edward rides to the rescue, leaping over streams and ravines. Exterior the tree continuous. Suddenly hearing an unsettling snorting sound behind her, Giselle turns back, shocked to see the troll reaching out for her feet. Down below, a gallop draws his sword. Giselle squeaks with alarm as Pip fearlessly leaps onto the troll, futilely pounding with tiny fists against the troll's thick head. As the troll gets closer, Giselle scrambles up even higher. Just as the evil troll stretches out a massive hand to grab her, a spinning princely sword suddenly lands with a thwack in a branch, pinning the troll's sleeve and preventing him from reaching Giselle. The sword also cracks the limb that Giselle is standing on, and she slips backwards, barely catching onto another branch, where she finds herself face to face with the angry, snorting troll. Horrified, Giselle starts to lose her hold on the branch. 5 fingers, 4 fingers, 3 fingers, 2. Giselle plummets past the troll. We follow her as she falls uncontrollably fast through the branches towards Earth. Giselle gasps in terror, convinced of her doom, when suddenly she miraculously lands in the arms of the prince.
Oh my goodness.
Catching her breath, Giselle looks in his eyes, and he in hers. There's an instant electric connection between them.
Hello there.
It's you.
I certainly hope so. Funny, I feel like I've
always known you. Me too.
A moment later, the troll bends down into frame, still holding onto the top branch. His weight has bent the entire tree downward. Pip is still perched on top of his head as the troll leers at Giselle.
Girl, yummy.
Giselle and Edward recoil as Pip nimbly hops off the troll. The troll's eyes go wide as he slowly realizes it was Pip's tiny bit of weight helping to hold him down before he can react. Boing! The tree bends violently back, sending the howling troll flying like a catapult into the next kingdom.
Boy, I gotta lay out the nuts.
And you are?
Giselle.
Giselle. Oh, we shall be married in the morning.
Giselle swoons as Edward smiles, his feelings coming out in song.
For the fairest maid I've ever met, and beneath the stream come we'll reminisce how we came to love. First we loved,
This romantic tableau starts to shimmer as we reveal we're watching it from inside. Interior, the Queen's sorcery room, continuous, where beautiful Queen Nerissa angrily watches the romantic tableau.
And I've been working on it for about a week.
In her magic fountain, a crystal ball that allows her to see beyond the castle walls. Incensed by what she sees, Nerissa splashes the water, the happy image of Edward and Giselle disappearing in the angry ripples. Nerissa lets out a furious, blood-curdling scream. Interior, the Queen's throne room, a little later. An angry Nerissa sits on her throne. Nathaniel cowers before her.
This is your fault. You were supposed to keep him occupied.
We couldn't keep sending him off on hunting expeditions forever. He was bound to meet someone.
But I'm the queen. I've always been the queen.
And a glorious queen you are, my lady. But there is that one small point of law. The day Prince Edward is married...
Stop!
You forfeit your crown and become...
Oh, don't say it!
Queen Mother.
Ugh. Even the sound of it sickens me. Look, I'm already in a hospital bed.
Well, what choice have you, your majesty?
Whose side are you on, anyway?
Yours, my regalness. It's just that...
Shut up, you twit!
Nathaniel visibly bristles at her rude rebuff. We can almost hear him swallow his anger as he forces a clinched, patronizing smile.
Yes, madam, of course. I live to serve.
Well, if you planned on continuing that arrangement...
I only meant your stepson seems very smitten.
And he needs to be unsmitten. Her little backwoods backside will never touch my throne. That I promise.
Nerissa's rant is cut short by the sudden arrival of the prince.
Gasp.
Edward.
The sudden arrival of the prince.
My adorable son, wherever art thou been? Well, Edward.
I have the most amazing news.
Oh, would you tell me again what you have amazing news?
Mother, I have amazing news.
Nerissa does an immediate 180, her angry visage now the picture of maternal kindness as she gives Edward a motherly embrace.
Darling, I've heard she's lovely, and don't worry about the wedding. Mommy will take care of everything. It'll be a day she'll never forget.
Exterior, the castle, morning. Royal footmen stand at the landing of the castle's main marble. Festival balloon music plays as a dainty gold carriage pulls up and Nathaniel opens the door. Giselle emerges looking absolutely radiant in a lavish wedding gown. A sparkling bell-shaped skirt tapers to her puffy white sleeves.
You look luminous, miss.
Following her out of the impossibly small carriage is an endless stream of animal friends, skunks and bunnies and deer, all putting the finishing touches on her ensemble.
Why, thank you.
The skunk and bunnies bite the last few threads off her dress as the bluebirds float a pretty tiara into her hair, the animals echoing Giselle with a chorus of high-pitched thank you, thank yous. Nathaniel sneers at the four-legged friends as they follow along behind Giselle, thrilled to celebrate her wedding with her. Interior, the castle, a moment later. Nathaniel leads an excited Giselle into the castle. He makes a point of slamming the door on Pip and the rest of the animals.
Hey, what are we? Chopped liver?
A slighted Pip scurries to the top of the castle, moving along the roof of the castle, looking down through the windows and atriums below as Nathaniel escorts Giselle towards the royal ballroom. Exterior, the castle courtyard, moments later. Nathaniel leads Giselle through the courtyard. She's suddenly taken aback to see a toothless old hag step in her path.
Oh, hello, my dear. Quite the night for you.
Oh, it is. Thank you.
Old Granny has a wedding gift for you, love. Looky yonder.
The hag points to a glimmering golden wishing well.
Oh, my.
Oh, yes. 'Tis a wishing well, dear. You've only to make a wish, and your heart's desire will come true.
An excited Giselle turns hesitantly to Nathaniel.
I think that would be fine, but quickly.
The hag leads Giselle into the magical light of the well.
Just look into the well, close your eyes, and make your wish. That's right. Leaning closer. Are you wishing for something?
Yes, I am. And they both lived happily ever after.
And repeating her words, Giselle leans in closer and the hag pushes her in. Giselle falls, screaming until her voice fades. But we never hear her land. Exterior, a tree overlooking the courtyard, continuous. Having witnessed this terrible treachery, Pip's eyes go wide in shock. Frightened he'll be discovered, he runs into the forest. Exterior, the courtyard, continuous. Turning away, the old hag laughs wickedly. Her face suddenly melts and shifts as she transforms back into Queen Nerissa. Nathaniel emerges from the shadows, peering down into the well.
Where did you send her, my queen?
Wouldn't you like to know? I've sent her far, far away to a place where there are no happily ever afters.
Nathaniel shudders as Nerissa laughs, a gleeful, diabolical cackle. Interior, a vortex, continuous. The queen's evil laugh echoes with a nightmarish reverberance as Giselle helplessly twirls and tumbles through a swirling vortex of shimmering cosmic energy. A blizzard of twinkling magical dust attaches to her skin as she falls. Running her hands over her arms as she falls, Giselle is startled to see a strange transformation taking place, the sparkling dust changing her from an animated girl into a real woman. Looking up, Giselle glimpses the dust converging to form a dancing couple, gliding and spinning like a vision from a wonderful dream. Just as her metamorphosis is complete, Giselle's journey comes to an abrupt end as she suddenly lands with a none too gentle interior, a very dark space, live action, continuous thump. She takes a deep, frightened breath. All is quiet, save for the distant echo of dripping water. Slowly lifting her head from her hands, Giselle looks around for some sense of where she could possibly be. All she sees next to her are 5 small holes, out of which shooting 3 dusty shafts of light. Confused, Giselle studies this strange sight.
Oh my.
Anxious to escape this dark, scary place, Giselle slowly crawls over and peers through one of the holes. Exterior, a city street, night continuous. A reverse close-up on Giselle's eye blinking up at us through the hole. Slowly pulling back, Giselle curiously pokes her fingers out of the 4 holes as we start to realize she's looking up at us through a manhole cover. We continue pulling back, Giselle emitting a dainty grunt of exertion as she manages to push the cover up and slide it to the side. Interior, the manhole continuous. Giselle slowly, tentatively raises her head from the darkness, filled with a nervous apprehension. Exterior, street level continuous. Giselle lets out a gasp of absolute and utter amazement as she cranes her head in a slow twirling circle to see a dramatic forced perspective of Times Square in the very heart of New York City. An overwhelming vista of skyscrapers, giant TVs, theme stores, theaters, and throngs of strangely dressed people. Her ears are assaulted by a deafening cacophony of honking traffic, yelling pedestrians, and thumping music. Her eyes wide as saucers, Giselle's at a mind-numbing loss. She has no frame of reference for this place.
Oh my goodness.
Slowly, hesitantly, Giselle lifts herself out of the manhole cover. Her progress is almost immediately impeded by her wide hoop skirt wedging in the hole. Giselle pushes harder, the skirt squeezing out like a mushroom cloud until it snaps back into its original shape. No sooner does Giselle slowly rise to her feet when, honk, she is startled by a chorus of car horns as 4 separate vehicles screech on their brakes to avoid hitting her, their efforts resulting in a deafening crash. They shock Giselle, looking around to see and she's standing in the center of the 4 wedged vehicles, amazingly untouched. As the drivers exit their cars in a flurry of muffled obscenities, a frightened Giselle throws her arms up in alarm, daintily picking up her skirt and scurrying away from the crash site onto this crowded sidewalk. Exterior, the sidewalk, continuous. Falling into the throngs of hurrying pedestrians, a confused Giselle suddenly finds herself twisted in the flow of strangely dressed people. Quickly stumbling backwards, Giselle shouts out to them a panicked inquiry.
Hello, excuse me, pardon me. I wonder if one of you kind people might direct me to the castle?
As the jaded New Yorker march indifferently around her, Giselle tries to explain further.
I'm supposed to be at the ball to wed Prince Edward, my one true love. Please, if you could just point me toward the castle?
Giselle doesn't notice as she bumps into someone.
Hey, watch it.
Looking down, Giselle notices next to her, way down, a very short man in a business suit. The man scowls up at Giselle, his angry expression triggering a hint of recognition in Giselle. Could it possibly be?
Grumpy!
Jeez, lady, are you for real?
The little man's scowl turns to fury as he pushes past Giselle. Startled, Giselle steps backward, her foot landing on the downward subway escalator. As Giselle looks around to suddenly realize she's sinking into the ground. Panicked, Giselle runs up against the stairs, but she's immediately pinned in by descending commuters.
Edward!
Exterior, another subway entrance later, located in a desolate, seedy part of town. Black storm clouds loom over the dark skyline. We see a hesitant head pop up out of the subway entrance as a frazzled and tousled Giselle slowly emerges from the subway. Her initially hopeful expression turns to disappointment as she realizes she's still nowhere near the castle. Exterior, a New York street. A few moments later, Giselle wanders down this dirty street of strewn garbage, money exchanges, and pawn shops. Her stacked up hair is developing a Pisa-like lean, and her white dress is looking increasingly dirty. More discouraged than ever, Giselle walks past professional ladies working the street in short skirts and halter tops. Her attempts at a friendly smile are met with icy, competitive glares. Until finally, Giselle arrives at a derelict old man slumped over on a stoop. Weary and discouraged, she offers a pleading smile.
Hello, old man. May I sit with you?
The old man stares, Giselle taking this as invitation to sit down for a much-needed rest. She lets out a long sigh.
I'm so tired and scared and hungry. I've never been this far from home, and I'm not at all sure where I'm at. If someone were to show me just a small bit of kindness, a friendly hello, or even a smile, I think that would lift my spirits so much.
The old man suddenly opens his mouth in a wide, decayed, and near toothless grin. Giselle politely tries to hide her revulsion.
Oh my, you have a lovely smile.
Still smiling, the old man reaches out and grabs the diamond tiara from her hair. Giselle gives a shocked inhale as he runs away.
Oh my goodness!
As her pile-up hair collapses like a condemned building, Giselle quickly stands and chases after him.
Come back, please!
Her long, blinding hair almost causes her to trip as she comes to a frustrated stop.
You are not a very nice old man.
As suddenly it begins to rain. Giselle stumbles down the street, trying to avoid the downpour and failing miserably. Exterior, your Midtown martial arts studio later. The youth karate class is letting out as Robert Mackenzie shields his 7-year-old daughter Morgan from the rain with an umbrella. A handsome man in his early 30s. Robert's thoughtful expression matches his serious business suit, though a softer side of him reveals itself when he smiles down at Morgan. Dressed in a little karate uniform, Morgan's bright, pretty, and growing up faster than perhaps even she would like. Hailing a passing cab, Robert quickly opens the door for Morgan. Interior, the taxi continuous. They both buckle up as Robert closes the taxi door.
557 78th Street, please.
The cab takes off and Robert excitedly hands a gift-wrapped package to Morgan.
What's this?
Just a present.
What for?
No reason.
Morgan looks auspiciously at the present and back up at her dad.
What's the news?
News?
Whenever you have something to tell me, you always get me a present.
That's not true.
When the divorce went through, you bought me an iguana. When I had to change schools, you got me an iPod.
Why don't you just open it?
Morgan tears at the store-wrapped gift to reveal a very somber-looking book. She tries to conceal her clear disappointment.
What is it?
It's the Famous Women biography series, all about smart, pioneering women who've made important contributions in the 20th century.
Morgan manages a look of gratitude at this achingly boring gift.
Great.
See this pull-out sheet here? You can fill in your own timeline to test your knowledge of how much you retained from your reading.
Thank you.
Thought it'd be interesting. Real stories about real people. Exciting.
So there's no news?
Robert looks at her, a guilty expression as he quietly admits.
Well, there is a little news.
Exterior, New York Street continuous. As the taxi turns a corner, the rain still coming down hard. We hear the sound of Robert's BlackBerry ringing. Interior, the taxi continuous. Robert looks down at the BlackBerry message, clicking it off.
Nancy, I'll call her back.
You're gonna ask her to marry you, aren't you?
Robert shrugs self-consciously, taken aback by her insight.
Well, yeah.
I knew it.
Well, we've dated almost 5 years, and she and I have talked about it a lot. I think it's something that will be great for both of us. You like her, right?
She's good.
She is, isn't she? She's a lot of fun. Look, I don't want you to worry. It's not like she's going to try and be your mother.
I know. Stepmother.
A nice stepmother. She even wants to take you to school tomorrow. Have you guys share some grown-up girl bonding time?
I'm only 7.
You won't always be, sweetie.
Exterior, another New York street. A little later, the rain still pouring as Giselle staggers along, hungry, distraught, and soaked to the skin. She's in a near delirious state of exhaustion. Just as she is about to collapse where she stands, Giselle looks up and sees what in her fevered mind appears to be her salvation, a 3D billboard of a large castle. It is, in fact, the Disneyland Castle, a fairy tale banner beckoning Giselle with the prescient slogan, "Come home." Giselle smiles at this beautiful mirage like a thirsty person discovering an oasis in the desert. She can almost hear a heavenly choir singing an ethereal chorus of celebration. Quickening her step, Giselle finds the renewed energy to almost run as she hurries toward the billboard. Running to an adjacent tree, Giselle starts climbing to reach the billboard, moving with the same agility we saw in Andalasia. While down the street, a taxi approaches. Robert and Morgan are inside. Interior, the taxi continuous. Robert reads excerpts from Morgan's new famous women biography series. Morgan tries not to roll her eyes at this serious tone.
So even though she died an excruciatingly painful death of radiation poisoning, Madame Curie made great scientific strides that we benefit from to this day.
Morgan looks up at him troubled.
She died?
Well, yes, but it was in the name of science.
Morgan nods politely, thoroughly unconvinced. The taxi comes to a stop as the driver clicks off the meter.
750, sir.
Morgan's eyes drift out her window.
Right, just a sec.
Where she sees a strange woman in a white dress climbing onto the Disneyland Castle billboard.
Daddy!
Huh?
Why is there a lady out there?
Where?
There's a princess on the castle billboard.
Honey.
Yes?
You know, we've talked about all this. There's no such thing as princesses and enchanted kingdoms and glass slippers that don't fit anyone, okay?
Handing the driver his money, Robert reaches for the car door, opening it for Morgan as they both exit the taxi.
That's all just made up stuff. You understand that, right?
Right.
Good.
But she's still there.
Where?
Finally looking up himself, Robert sees the crazy girl slipping along the billboard, only barely managing to maintain her balance.
What in the...
Robert runs across the street toward the billboard, noticing at the last moment that Morgan is running in the street behind him. Taking Morgan's hand, he quickly leads her across the street. Exterior, the billboard continuous. Giselle teeters precariously as her princess slippers slide on the wet metal of the narrow billboard catwalk. Giselle pulls violently on the castle's door handles, but they refuse to open, as Robert and Morgan appear beneath her under the billboard.
Hey, you, the miss?
Hey!
Confused Giselle follows the voices in the rain down to the pavement where she sees Robert and Morgan frantically waving.
Oh, hello.
Giselle's foot slides again and she tumbles back, her body caught in that terrible tipping point between recovery and disaster.
Uh-oh.
Daddy!
Giselle falls off the catwalk, barely managing to grab the edge of the doorknob with one hand. Robert and Morgan watch breathlessly as a dangling Giselle slowly starts to lose her grip. 5 fingers, 4 fingers, 3 fingers, 2.
Catch her, Daddy!
Not completely off guard, Robert runs forward.
Oh, no, wait!
Quickly curling his arms in something approximately a catching position, crash! She slams into his arms with a velocity that's unfortunately all too consistent with the real-world laws of physics. Unprepared, Robert's arms collapse in a distinctly un-Prince-like manner, jamming his thumb as Giselle lands butt first on the wet pavement.
Oh!
Robert hops up in a pain circle, holding onto his jammed thumb.
Damn it, that hurts.
Morgan runs over to Giselle, helping her up.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Robert's still grimacing with intense pain from his thumb.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're okay.
Rubbing her bruised backside, Giselle smiles gratefully, thrilled that someone's actually talking to her. Robert notices her grin.
Why are you smiling like that?
You're both so kind. I've been wandering so far and long today, and I'm afraid nobody's been very nice.
Yeah, well, welcome to New York.
Thank you.
Robert looks at her suspiciously. Morgan looks at her and smiles. Interior, Robert's hallway, a few minutes later. The elevator door opens and everyone emerges into the hallway. Robert leads the way as Morgan glances back, amazed by Giselle's ball dress. Soaking wet Giselle trails behind, thrilled to share her grand adventure with a pair of friendly ears.
And then the old hag said I should look in the well and wish for my heart's desire. But I must have looked down so far that I fell down and down. And then I climbed out of a big round hole. And now here I am with you.
Robert nods curiously, trying to reconcile this strange tale. Meanwhile, Morgan can't take her eyes off Giselle.
Is this a big habit of yours, falling off stuff?
Well, usually someone catches me, but not to worry. I'm certain Edward is already searching for me. No doubt by morning he'll come and rescue me from this strange land, take me home, and the two of us can share in true love's kiss.
True love's kiss?
Oh yes, it's the most powerful thing in the world.
Right.
Now, if I could just find a place to rest my head for the night.
What sort of place?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe a nearby meadow or a hollow tree.
A hollow tree.
Or a house full of dwarves.
I bet they'd let you sleep with them.
Robert tries to ignore Morgan's comment, eyeing Giselle warily.
All I can really do is let you in for a few minutes. If you want to dry off, use the phone. We have our bedtime to stick to.
Robert looks back at her incredulously as he opens the door, leading Morgan inside. Giselle follows behind when suddenly, interior apartment, Robert's apartment, continuous. Zzz, she grinds to a halt, her giant hoop skirt wedged in the door. Giselle pushed hard against it to try and squish her way through.
What's with the dress?
Oh, do you like it? I gathered all the berries for the dye out of the meadow and crushed them with a mortar I made, and I made the sparkles out of tiny bits of polished rock.
Morgan helps out, grabbing Giselle's hands and pulling.
You made it all by yourself?
Robert grabs her hands as well, helping pull as.
Well, not all of it. The mice and rabbits did help with the sewing.
They're good.
Giselle finally pops through. Robert closes the door and Giselle steps forward, suddenly lunging back as we see.
Oh my!
Her ridiculously long hair is trapped in the front door. She tugs like a trapped animal, trying to chew off its own leg until Robert opens the door and Giselle rolls backward into their pristine apartment. A sweet smile as she daintily pulls her wet skirt down from over her head. Robert checks his watch, troubled.
So did you want to give someone a call?
Well, I doubt anyone would hear you from here.
Why don't we see about getting you a taxi?
Giselle warms herself as she wanders to the couch.
Couldn't she sleep here, Daddy?
Flopping down into the cushion with her wet hair and dress.
No, that's a big no.
Giselle stretches like a cat, yawning with utter exhaustion as Robert searches for the number. Morgan leans in and whispers.
Are you really a princess?
Not yet. Almost.
Giselle lays her head down on the edge of the couch. In the very next moment, she's sound asleep, breathing deeply.
Wow, she is out.
Robert glances up from the yellow pages aghast.
Oh, no, this is not acceptable.
Morgan looks up with pleading eyes.
You're not gonna really make her go, are you, Daddy?
Go to bed, you.
I think she might be a real princess.
Okay, Morgan, remember our talk?
But Daddy...
A big funny dress does not make her a princess. She's obviously running away from some bizarre, traumatizing wedding fiasco, including all these strange claims of royalty. And real or not, all that makes her is a seriously confused woman who's somehow been dumped in our laps. She needs our sympathy more than our fascination.
So are we going to be sympathetic and let her stay?
Bedtime.
Morgan gives Robert a hug as he watches her paddle back to her room. The moment her door closes, Robert dials the phone.
Taxi floozy.
Midtown cab.
Hi, I need a cab at 557 78th Street.
Okay. Can you hold, please?
Fine. Robert's gaze turns to his front window, the heavy rain pelting unrelentingly against the glass. He tries to resist an overwhelming feeling of sympathy as his eyes turn back to Giselle sleeping, with her lovely face and perfect skin bathed in the gentle glow of the dim track lighting. Absolutely beautiful. And though he'd never admit it to himself, let alone out loud, she does look like a princess. Robert waits on the phone. Despite his better judgment, he just can't bring himself to send her back out into the night.
Hello, sir. Destination, please.
But Robert doesn't answer, his eyes still on Giselle as he quietly clicks off the phone. Interior Morgan's bedroom moments later, Robert peeps in her door, whispering in a clandestine hush.
Morgan.
Huh?
Lock your door.
Why?
Just do it.
Resolved to exterior Times Square morning. We're back at the same manhole where Giselle emerged, a trio of sewer workers replacing the cover. We hear a sudden hissing as, swoosh, Prince Edward shoots out of the hole, the force of gravity landing him on the street in a dashing, swashbuckling pose. Zzzt. Before the workers can even figure out where he came from, Edward's sword is already pressed against the terrified supervisor's neck.
Who are you? Are you in league with the wicked old hag who sent my poor Giselle to this foul place?
Swoosh! Pip suddenly flies out of the manhole and Edward plucks him in midair like he's stopping a fastball, turning to him.
Is this man party to the evil plot, Chipmunk?
Pip tries to answer when he suddenly discovers an unpleasant reality about this world. He can't speak here. Instead, he's reduced to clutching at his throat, gasping and chirping, incapable of fanning a single word.
I don't even know who you're looking for.
I search for a beautiful young woman, her hair like spun gold, her skin like alabaster, pleasing of form and lovely of spirit. I long to find her more than life itself.
Yeah. I'd like to find one of those too, you know?
Then keep a wary eye out, peasant.
Turning towards the street, Prince Edward energetically leaps onto the taxi, Pip joining him as they stomp across the stalled cars like stepping stones, oblivious to the angry, pissed-off drivers. Interior Robert's living room morning. Giselle wakes with a demure, sleepy stretch on the couch. Slowly batting her eyes awake, she looks around the room to realize the home of her newfound friends is an untidy mess, the sloth of a busy single parent. Dirty clothes are strewn about, magazines litter the floor, and the sink is full of dirty dishes. Slowly standing, Giselle puts her hands to her waist as she gives a disapproving tisk-tisk.
This just won't do.
Exterior Robert's window. A moment later, craning out the window, Giselle sings out in a clear voice. Exterior various shots at street level continuous. Giselle's pretty voice echoes downward as the animals of the city hear her siren call. This being New York, however, cuddly bunnies and cute fawns are in short supply. Instead, the city's natural inhabitants respond. Rats emerge up the subway stairs. Pigeons take leave of the statue they're defecating on, all hurrying towards Robert's apartment. Interior Robert's living room moments later. The vermin stream into the apartment via the window and heating vents. Cockroaches scurry out the sink. Giselle's eyes go wide as she takes in these alternate species or friends, but appreciating their help, she manages a grateful smile.
Well, it's always nice to make new friends. All right, everyone, let's tidy things up. Working song, merry little voices clear and strong. Come and roll your sleeves up so you can fit. Clean product in the kitchen as we clean all up.
like a hairpop in the shower drain, to the daily refrain of a happy little song. We'll sleep without fail, otherwise we spoil it. Holding down the garbage pail, scrubbing up the toilet. Oh, how we all enjoy letting loose with a little la-da-dum-dum-dum. While we're emptying the vacuum drum, it's such fun to hum a happy working song. Ooh, a happy working song. Oh, how sweet the place to be. Edward comes home, heart is dying. Still, as long as I'm here, I'm destined to sing words trying. Hey, keep trying. When you've got such a happy working tune to hum, while you're sponging up the soapy scum, we adore each filthy chore that we determine. So friends, even though you're burning, we're a happy working drum. Singing as we fetch the detergent box for the smelly shirts and the sticky socks. Sing along if you can't come along while we're finishing a happy working. Wasn't this fun?
Interior, Robert's bedroom, continuous. Asleep in bed, Robert has a half smile on his face as he dreams that he hears a lovely young woman singing. Opening his eyes, he remembers he's not dreaming. Sitting up, Robert springs out of bed. Interior, the hallway, a moment later. The pretty singing continues as Robert emerges from his bedroom, pulling on his robe as he walks down the hallway. Morgan comes out of her room a moment later. Interior, Robert's living room, continuous. Robert's eyes go wide in shock as he steps from the hallway to see their entire apartment is filled with vermin. Pink-tailed sewer rats, armies of cockroaches, flea-ridden pigeons. Before he even notices they're all engaged in chores, a horrified, disgusted Robert charges into the room, swatting and swearing at these invading hordes.
What in the... Get the hell out of here!
As Morgan walks out a moment later, she screams in terror. Interior, Robert's front hallway, moments later. As Robert sweeps the vermin towards the front door, he yells.
Morgan, quick, open it!
A creaked out Morgan swings the door open as Robert sends them all fleeing. As Morgan slams the door shut, they hear the sound of happy singing and running water coming from the bathroom.
Wait here.
Robert hesitantly follows the singing to the open bathroom door. Interior, the bathroom, continuous. Robert cautiously peers in the open door to see Giselle stepping out of the shower. She doesn't appear to be wearing any...
Oh my... Excuse me.
Whoosh! A pair of pigeons grab a towel and quickly wrap it around Giselle.
Good morning, Robert. Did you have nice dreams?
No.
Oh, this room is magical. Where does the water come from?
From the pipes.
Where do the pipes get it?
I don't know. From wherever the pipes get it.
It is magical.
Their odd exchange is cut short by the doorbell ringing. Interior front hallway, continuous. Morgan opens the front door to see Robert's fiancée, Nancy Dubois, an attractive professional woman. Nancy is sexy, smart, and dressed even smarter. She's also busy. Her BlackBerry glued to her ear. She smiles ingratiatingly at Morgan.
Hey, girlfriend. No, May. It isn't gonna work.
Hi, Miss Dubois.
Honey, how many times do I have to tell you? Call me Nancy.
Yes, Miss Dubois.
Okay, just find out what time they can meet. Listen, I'm running a little late, so we're gonna have to make this a 20-minute half hour, okay?
Nancy lets herself in a suspicious expression as she notices almost immediately.
It's so neat in here. You guys get a maid?
No, not exactly.
Hearing voices in the rest of the apartment, Nancy keeps walking. Interior, the bathroom continuous. A smiling Giselle opens the bathroom door, squeezing past Robert as he squeezes in, checking to make sure nothing's flooded. One last pigeon flies up at him like a flushed grouse. Little Robert falls backwards right on top of Giselle, the two of them falling limbs akimbo right out into the hallway. Robert falling first and Giselle a moment later right on top of him, her towel only barely on at this point. They stare at each other a moment, both gulping hard at this unsettling intimacy.
What the hell is going on here?
They both look up to see Nancy standing over them. Robert leaps from the floor, thrusting Giselle into a standing position.
Nancy!
Who is this?
Hello, I'm Giselle. I was on my way to the castle to get married and...
She's married?
No, she's not. Not yet.
Oh, so you have a little window of opportunity? Is that it?
No, Nancy, come on. She was lost. I was helping her.
With what? Finding the shower?
Oh, the shower is wonderful. You should try it, Nancy.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Nancy, calm down. Let's talk at least.
But Nancy is beside herself, her sense of betrayal pouring out.
God, about what, Robert? How I waited 3 months before I ever took a shower here? How you ever had me over because Morgan was here and I have boundaries. And you said I have to move slowly. And I thought, oh, I'm so lucky. He's sensitive. I didn't realize you were worried about crowd control.
We could talk later.
Don't bet on it.
What about taking Morgan to school? Grown-up girl bonding time.
So you can have some grown-up girl bonding time? I don't think so.
As her anger reaches its zenith fever pitch, Nancy's BlackBerry rings, angrily turning it off. She storms out in a furious huff, hurrying past Morgan. Robert runs after Nancy out the door. Exterior Robert's apartment building. A moment later, Robert runs onto the sidewalk.
Nancy, wait!
Just as Nancy slams the door on the cabin and pulls away, deflated Robert watches her go before storming back inside. Interior Robert's apartment a little later. An extremely irate Robert is knocking impatiently on his own bedroom door as Giselle brightly answers.
Hello?
Okay, you know what? You gotta go. Now, I don't want your deal. I don't know what your deal is here. If you're waiting on Prince Charming or...
Prince Edward.
Whatever. I can't have you here, all right? So, I'll get you to the bus depot, train station, airport, wherever. And that is it. I can't get involved after that.
As Giselle emerges from the bedroom wearing a blindingly bright aqua green peasant frock.
Where'd you get that?
I made it. Do you like it?
Robert's eyes go to the aqua green curtains in his living room, noticing one of them is missing. He shakes his head, incredulous.
You're unhappy.
You made a dress out of my curtains.
You are unhappy.
Robert looks at her. His short fuse is down to a mere nub.
I'm not unhappy. I'm angry.
Angry?
Yeah, it's an unpleasant emotion. You've heard of it?
I've heard of it, but...
Look, you have created a completely unnecessary problem with Nancy that I now have to resolve. The fact is, I was just getting ready to take a very serious step forward with her, a proposal, actually.
At the mention of a proposal, Giselle gives an excited inhale.
But now, she has it in her mind that you and I, well...
Kissed?
Something like that.
Why don't you sing to her? Maybe that will reassure her of your affections.
Sing to her?
You could rush to her side and take her in your arms, pour out your heart in a beautiful ballad. Then she'll know for sure. Why are you looking at me?
I don't know. It's like you escaped from a Hallmark card or something.
Is that bad?
Robert is about to answer, but Morgan exits her room dressed for school with her Little Mermaid backpack.
Damn, school. Okay, we're late. We're gonna run.
He runs into his room to get dressed. Morgan whispers to Giselle.
Don't worry. Daddy's a little cranky, but he's smart. I'm sure he'll help you get back to your prince.
Giselle smiles, giving Morgan a warm hug. She's happy to return. Exterior Times Square later. Just as the crew sets the manhole cover back up, they hear a loud bonk, the sound of flesh against cast iron as a man screams.
Ow!
Startled, the workers reticently lift the cover to see an older man dressed like a Renaissance fair escapee Nathaniel.
You looking for a beautiful girl, too?
As he climbs out of the hole, fussily dusting off his garments.
No, I'm looking for a prince.
Right.
You've met your match, foul bellowing beast.
They turn towards the sound of Edward's booming voice. Exterior Times Square continuous. Approaching police sirens wail as Edward violently plunges his sword into the roof of a crosstown bus. Stalled drivers yell from their cars as the female bus driver angrily shouts up at Edward.
You get that sword out of my bus or I promise you will not like where I put it!
Interior of the bus continues. Panicked commuters hurry off the bus, an old bag lady screaming as Edward's sword skewers her bag of bird feed from above. As Pip hops in the hole looking for Giselle, he hears a squeak. Spying a toddler's squeaky clown face ball, his eyes light up. Grabbing the toy from the crying kid, Pip stuffs it in his cheek. Exterior of the bus continuous. Raising his sword for another stab, Edward's surprised to see Nathaniel next to him. He smiles warmly at his trusted valet.
Loyal Nathaniel, always looking over my shoulder, aren't you?
Down the street, squad cars turn the corner and cops start exiting their cars. Nathaniel senses trouble.
Oh, sire, if you only knew. Perhaps now that you've triumphantly slain this big metal thing, we should search elsewhere for your lovely bride.
Withdrawing his sword, an agreeable Edward jumps down with Nathaniel from the bus, Pip scurrying along with them. As the cops shout for them to stop, they break into a run. The three of them quickly disappear into the nearest alley. Exterior, Taylor, White, and Associates. A little later, Giselle at his side, Robert runs up to the front doors as they automatically open. Giselle steps back, startled, as Robert turns back, wondering what she's waiting for. Grabbing her hand, he quickly tugs her through the doors to the elevators. Exterior, Taylor, White, and Associates reception. Moments later, Robert hurries into his office, Giselle in tow. His cherubic secretary, Sandy Ariel, looks up as Robert approaches in a state of panic.
Please, don't tell me Mrs. Schumer's already here.
Mrs. Schumer's already here.
Oh, no.
Along with Mr. Schumer and his lawyer.
Oh, no. How long have they been waiting?
Do you really want to know?
No. Listen, I need you to deal with something for me. This girl.
Taking to controls, Giselle picks up a coffee mug, glancing right past the alien-looking sparklets dispenser.
Who is she?
I have no idea.
Susan follows Robert's stare to Giselle, who's smiling at a different source of bubbly fresh spring water, the office aquarium. She happily scoops her cupful and takes a yummy sip.
I'm pretty sure she's from out of town.
Well, what do you want me to do?
I don't know. Just find out where she's from and get her there and make it cheap. I'm probably going to end up paying for it. Oh, and if Nancy calls, let me know. I have to talk with her.
Susan's eyes go from Robert to Giselle and back again.
I bet.
Okay, Giselle, I have a critically important meeting here. Susan's going to help you get home.
Mm-hmm.
Just please try and keep things low-key.
Giselle nods agreeably, waiting until Robert turns to politely spit out a tropical fish she accidentally drank back into her cup. We slowly widen to include the aquarium just over her shoulder. Giselle, completely unaware, as next to her an eerie glow water image of Queen Nerissa's face suddenly forms inside the aquarium, glowering at her with absolute hatred. A reverse angle over Nerissa's shoulder as she looks at Giselle, fish swimming nervously past Nerissa's face as she turns back towards us.
Now you know where she is.
We pull out to reveal we're watching the Queen from inside. Interior, a McDonald's restroom. Continuous, the clairvoyant waters of a men's room's toilet. We pull out further to see a nervous Nathaniel watching the Queen.
I don't want the prince coming anywhere near her. Do you hear me?
Believe me, he's quite clueless, madam. He doesn't possess your incredible powers of sorcery and clairvoyance, your extraordinary gift for precognition.
Would you stop with the bootlicking, you toad? All I want to hear from your sniveling lips is that dear, sweet Giselle is dead.
Which note Nathaniel hears a churning glug, 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 3 putrid boil-covered red apples suddenly popping up.
Poison apples, my queen.
The stalls turn suddenly dark, the toilet emitting a sickly green light on Nathaniel's face. The pulsing, noxious apples circle the queen's smiling face, her voice low and evil and wicked.
It won't be difficult. Just one bite. That's all it takes. One small bite, and the claws of death will clutch at her heart, dragging her down into a deep, troubled sleep. And when the hands of the clock strike 12, oh, that precious little pretender to my throne will be gone.
But your grace, how will I ever get her to...
Nathaniel squeamishly reaches in to grab the apples.
Oh, stop whining and figure it out, you dullard. I just want it done.
Fighting his gag reflex as he wipes them off.
I live to serve, ma'am.
Squeak splash. Marissa's face is suddenly splashed away by a mocking clown-faced squeaky toy. Nathaniel looks up to see Pips perched on the stall, the clown face having fallen from his shocked, open mouth.
You!
Nathaniel leaps at Pip, who deftly jumps out of reach. Nathaniel chases after him. Interior McDonald's dining area, continuous. Sitting at a table, Edward takes his first curious bite of a French fry as the washroom door suddenly bursts open. Pip pops out and races to Edward. A frantic Nathaniel follows a moment later, imploring the prince.
Sire, I beg you not to listen to this foul little creature. He's quite mad. We should probably put him down for his own good.
Nathaniel, please, let him talk.
But sire...
Go ahead, Pip. What is it you want to say?
Reduced to acting his message, Pip points to Nathaniel, doing a perfect impression of him, smiling and scheming with the apple.
Nathaniel's glad to have me near.
Pip shakes his head, frustrated. He switches roles to Giselle, choking, dying a tragic death from poison.
Try it. It's good. Try it.
Oh, you feel you die without me here. You think me brave and cavalier?
Complete misunderstanding, clenching his little fist. The prince looks down at Pip, gently chiding him.
All that might be well and true, Pip, but we really have more important things to worry about right now.
The prince walks away as a relieved Nathaniel smiles, giving Pip a condescending head pat. Pip screeches angrily. Interior. Fashion design studio continuous. A lush fashionable loft space, a room full of seamstresses toiling at their sewing machines. A still ticked off Nancy walks the room, reviewing dresses her oldest sister beside her. Nancy's BlackBerry rings and she checks it.
Robert again. Ugh. Groveling text message number 3.
How many apologies do you want?
I'll let you know.
So what are you saying? You're never going to forgive him?
Nancy picks up a blouse, deftly inspecting the seams as she talks.
I'm sure I will at some point. I mean, it's not like I'm one of those women who sit around their entire lives waiting for some perfect prince, you know, to come on shining armor to like take me off to his castle in the Hamptons. I mean, I got over that fantasy a long time ago.
Biting her lip, Nancy suddenly rips the blouse in half, a calming breath as she apologetically hands it back to the poor seamstress.
With Robert and I, it's real. You know, I can count on him, and at least I thought I could.
You want to know what I think?
I don't remember asking.
I think you're a hopeless romantic who's discovered romance is hopeless.
You don't have any other work to do?
Interior Taylor White and Associates reception later. Robert emerges from his office with Catherine Schumer, her ex-to-be quirkily handsome 40-ish Stephen Schumer, and his older attorney Henry. Robert smiles, pleased by the results of their meeting.
Well, I think this went well. I always say there's no reason not to be reasonable.
Great. I think we might actually be in the neighborhood of a settlement.
Robert notices frantically waving him over to her desk.
1 second, folks. What? What is it?
She has no driver's license, no passport. I can't even find this place she's talking about.
What place?
Andalusia? I've called every travel agent, every airline. I don't know if it's a country or a city.
A state?
Robert and Susan look over to Giselle, a dreamy smile on her face as she dances in happy circles to the easy listening station, playing Part of Your World.
More like a state of mind. She told me it's just beyond the meadow of joy and the valley of enchantment. I mean, what's that all about?
Across the room, Giselle twirls her next to Mrs. Schumer. She touches her short-styled hair with unabashed admiration.
Oh my goodness, your hair is lovely. You're beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you.
The man who holds your heart is a lucky fellow indeed.
Try telling him that.
Oh, I'm sure he already knows.
Talking to Henry, Stephen's still close enough to overhear them.
Excuse me.
Giselle breaks into a smile at meeting Stephen.
Oh, are you him? You must be so happy, the way her eyes sparkle. No wonder you're in love.
Is that a joke?
I would never joke about love. You make such a handsome couple.
Giselle takes hold of each of their hands, Stephen and Catherine sharing an awkward glance before quickly pulling them away. A horrified Robert quickly moves between them to intervene.
Giselle, please.
Stephen and Catherine watch the confusion as Robert explains.
It's not like that, all right? They're not together anymore.
I don't understand.
They're getting a divorce. They're separating from one another.
Separating? For how long?
Forever.
You mean forever and ever?
Giselle's lower lip starts to tremble as she contemplates the awfulness of this notion. Shameless tears start to roll. Travis.
Crying? Is she actually crying?
Giselle sinks in a sad little heap and indeed starts to cry. She looks up at them apologetic.
I'm sorry. I can't help it. It's so sad.
Despite her cool facade, Catherine also starts to get upset, doing her darndest not to give Stephen the satisfaction of seeing it.
What kind of place are you running here? This is so unprofessional.
Catherine turns towards the door before she loses it completely.
Catherine, wait.
Robert's older boss, Carl, walks in, totally unaware of this mess.
Good morning, Catherine. How are you?
As Catherine hurries past him, Henry angrily turns to Robert and Carl as Stephen fights back his own emotions beside him.
You guys are trying to manipulate us. You can throw this whole deal out.
Two of them walk out. Both Robert and Carl watch helplessly as two other clients also get up and leave. Carl takes Robert aside as Giselle waves goodbye to the Schumers.
What the hell was that all about? Who's she?
She's a friend, an acquaintance.
We had an entire chain of jewelry stores to unfairly divide, didn't we, Robert? Or am I missing something? I mean, besides the clients.
I'm gonna fix this, Carl. I swear to you.
Robert stares unnerved into Carl's stern expression, the consequences of his failure etched in his boss's unyielding gaze. Interior, Taylor White and Associates reception. Moments later, Robert tugs Giselle by arm out of the reception area towards just out of earshot. He furiously lays into her.
What is wrong with you?
Me?
This whole kumbaya, up with people, good morning, merry sunshine, happy talk routine of yours, those people are in real pain. They have major issues, and you come along and talk to them like that.
Well, no wonder they're in pain. Separated forever, married one day and the next day they're not. What kind of awful place is this?
The elevator opens. Robert practically pulls Giselle inside.
It's called reality.
I think I'd rather be in Andalusia.
I think I'd like that too.
The elevator doors close on Robert's extremely unhappy expression. Exterior Central Park later. Wandering through the park with Prince Edward and Pip at his side, a determined Nathaniel suddenly recognizes, across the street, Robert's office. He inhales sharply, a slow, devious turn to the prince.
Such a big place, sire. I wonder if we might cover more ground if we search separately. Me by myself and you with it.
Behind him, we see Robert and Giselle exiting the building. An agitated Robert leads Giselle across the street towards the park.
Excellent idea, Nathaniel. Which way should I?
Pip suddenly spots Robert and Giselle. He starts to frantically point and squeak, spotting Giselle as well. A startled Nathaniel snatches Pip in his fist, quickly pointing over Edward's shoulder.
Your Highness, I think I see Giselle.
Really? Well, I don't actually.
Run to her, sire. Not a moment to lose.
The prince quickly takes off in the opposite direction. As Pip chirps muffled cries of protest, Nathaniel ducks into the distance. Exterior Central Park continuous. A still angry Robert takes Giselle by the arm into the park.
I mean, I tried to do the right thing here, to be nice.
You've been very nice.
Nathaniel peers through the bushes at them as they walk past. We stay on Robert and Giselle.
And I've been severely punished for it. Between jamming my thumb, which really hurts, a house full of rats, my girlfriend thinking whatever, and I almost get fired.
Patience is exhausted as he suddenly reaches for his wallet.
What?
I can't help you anymore, Giselle. Just take this. Call up your prince, have him pick you up, bring his horse, whatever, because I honestly don't think I can handle this.
Robert?
Just go, please.
Robert takes a deep breath and starts to turn.
I'm so sorry, Robert.
He turns back to her despite himself. Giselle looks at him with total contrition, her voice soft, her words simple and heartfelt.
You've been a kind friend to me when I had none. I'd never want to make you unhappy or cause you trouble, so I'll go now. I wish you every happiness.
Giselle forces a brave smile as she turns away, a swoosh of her dress as she lightly steps into the street. Feeling terrible already, a guilty Robert tries to walk back to his office but stops, looking over his shoulder. As Giselle saunters down the path, Robert stares curiously as she stops to have a friendly talk with an old bag lady. Almost immediately, Giselle starts to hand her money over to the woman. Robert rolls his eyes in frustration, running out after her. Exterior, the bag lady's bench. Moments later, Robert hurries up to Giselle and the old bag lady.
Giselle, what are you doing?
Oh, Robert,
Giselle turns
to This is Eleanor. She says she saw Edward.
Looking closer, we realize she's the same bag lady from the bus.
He was on the bus this morning. He tried to kill me.
Really? That's great. Thank you.
Taking Giselle by the hand, Robert immediately leads Giselle away, leaning in with a chastising whisper.
Thinking, you can't just give people money.
You gave me money. Besides, she was so nice and helpful about Edward.
She didn't see Edward, I promise.
Robert shakes his head at her, inexplicably bothered by unrelenting certainty of her convictions.
Please, what is it with you and this prince of yours?
What about him?
I mean, what are you telling me? He's a real prince? You've been like betrothed since childhood?
Edward and I? Oh, no. But we fell in love the moment we met.
Of course. That's beautiful. And how long have you two been together?
About a day.
Robert and Giselle walk onto one of the park's footpaths.
You mean it feels like a day because you're so in love?
No, it's been a day.
You're kidding me. A day.
Yes.
1 day.
Yes, and tomorrow it will be 2 days.
You're joking.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
But I'm not.
You're getting married to someone after 1 day because you fell in love with him?
Yes.
Robert and Giselle now make their way from the park path out to exterior, the Central Park Plaza continuous, a large open square adjacent to the Central Park band shell. The plaza is full of street vendors, office workers eating lunch, mothers with kids in strollers, and miscellaneous visitors.
How can you talk about loving some guy you don't even know?
I know what's in his heart.
Oh, right. Of course.
Why? How long have you known your Nancy?
Me? 5 years.
And you haven't proposed?
Well, No.
No wonder she's angry.
Suddenly, a tempting caramel-covered apple appears in frame in front of Giselle's face.
Care for a succulently sweet caramel apple?
Robert and Giselle stop walking, following the apple to reveal Nathaniel in a shabby but convincing ethnic disguise standing at a taffy apple cart. A conked-out vendor lies behind his feet.
No charge for the lovely lady with the long locks.
We hear a loud rip in Nathaniel's clothing. Nathaniel's eyes wide as Pip appears, eyeing the lethal fruit in Nathaniel's hand. Pip leaps out to grab the apple, spying the chipmunk. Nathaniel swats him to the pavement before Giselle even realizes he's there.
Oh, well, thank you, kind sir.
As under the cart, Pip takes a vicious bite of Nathaniel's ankle.
My pleasure, miss.
Robert and Giselle continue along while behind them Nathaniel stuffs Pip in the glass popcorn maker. Pip pounds his fist, shaking the entire cart. Nathaniel eyes Robert and Giselle.
I'm just saying, normal people spend time getting to know each other before they get married. They date.
Date?
Yeah, you know, a date. You go out, dinner, dancing, a movie, talk.
Giselle brings the apple to her mouth, ready to take a bite.
You know that apple's pure poison, don't you? All the preservatives in that caramel could kill you.
Giselle pulls the apple down, eyeing Robert curiously.
What kind of things do you talk about?
About each other, about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, your job, your interests.
You have such strange ideas about love.
Giselle brings the poison caramel apple to her mouth again.
Oh, maybe I should do it your way. Meet, have lunch, get married.
You forgot about happily ever after.
Newsflash, no relationship ends in happily ever after.
Giselle looks up at this ridiculous statement.
Of course they do.
Giving a ballerina's kick, Giselle unknowingly sends the poison apple into a nearby pond. Nathaniel dives in the water after it. They come to a stop in the center of the plaza.
Believe me, they don't. Most marriages are considered a success if they manage to not end, period. Forget about happiness.
How can anybody forget about happiness?
It happens.
Giselle stares at Robert as if she can't quite believe what she's hearing. She can't.
But you and Nancy, you two will live happily ever after. You know that, right?
Look, I don't know if we'll make it through today, let alone a whole lifetime.
Giselle shakes her head, unwilling to accept this grim scenario.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, Giselle. It's complicated.
But it's not.
Oh, but it is.
Only because you make it that way.
Giselle pauses, her emotions suddenly rising inside her, flowing out of her in an unself-conscious a cappella.
How does she know you love her?
What are you doing?
How does she know she's yours?
People are looking.
They pass a nearby Caribbean steel band, which starts to pick up on her infectious melody. Giselle's smile invites them to play along.
How does she know that you love her?
He knows the song too?
How do you show her you love her?
How does she know that you really, truly love her?
I've never heard this song.
How does she know that you love her? How do you show her you love her? How does she know that you really, truly love her? Yeah. Not enough to take the one you love for granted. You must remind her or she'll be inclined to stay. How do I know he loves me? How do I know he's mine? Well, does he leave a little note to tell you you are on his mind? Send you yellow flowers when the sky is gray. Hey, he'll
find a new way to show you a little bit every day. That's how you know. That's how you know he's your love.
Don't treat her like a mind reader. I'm to show that you truly love her.
Live happily ever after. Everybody wants to know that true love is true. How do you know he loves you? How do you know he's yours? Well, does he take you out dancing just so he can hold you close? Dedicate a song with words meant just for you. Ooh, he'll find his own way to tell you with the little things he'll do. That's how you know. That's how you know he's your love. He's your love. He loves you. That's how you know it's true. Because he'll wear your favorite color just so he can match your eyes. Let a friend keep me by the fire's glow. Oh, his heart will be yours forever. Something every day will show. That's how you know. 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 That's how you know.
Love her. That's how you show that you love her. Show her you need her. Don't treat her like a mind reader. Love her. Take the one you love for granted.
Could you take these doves to doves? Could you take these to Nancy, please?
Are you crazy? I don't know where she is. They're birds.
Exterior, another part of the park, continuous. Prince Edward is conscientiously scouring the park when he hears Giselle's voice. He curiously cups his hand to his ear.
That's how you know.
Giselle! I've been dreaming.
Just like the animated world, Edward deftly leaps over a pair of park benches, a large stone water fountain, as finally, crash! A pack of racing bicyclists knock the prince straight on his royal ass, leaving him a twisted mess, legs akimbo, moaning in pain. Exterior, the Central Park Plaza continuous, close on Robert's BlackBerry. As it starts to ring, he clicks it on, surprised to find it's...
Nancy?
Robert, I love the flowers.
Robert's eyes go wide in shock. They actually got there? Giselle smiles, pleased. She didn't expect anything less. Exterior, the pond, moments later. A sizzling, noxious green smoke appears in the water as a gasping Nathaniel surfaces, holding the tiny shriveled poison apple. A moment later, a school of dead fish rise up around him. Nathaniel looks out into the square. Robert and Giselle are gone. Break! Intermission. Interior Nancy's office a little later. Robert stares dumbfounded at Giselle's flower arrangement, the two delivery doves cooing sweet.
So you really like them?
Oh, I loved them. God, usually you just send me these dopey email computer cards with the digital flowers. But these... And the ball?
We don't have to go. I just thought that...
Are you kidding me? That's so romantic, so spontaneous. I can't wait.
Good. Well, that's good. Listen, as far as the mix-up with Giselle,
Anthony puts up a hand, waving his apology away.
If you say nothing happened, then nothing happened. I trust you.
so tomorrow night then?
So unlike you.
Exterior of the Royal Inn later. A scuzzy, run-down, no-tell motel with a burned-out, buzzing neon crown. Underneath the sign says, luxury fit for a king. It's
83.50 at night.
Upstairs, two grown men dressed in lace breeches and gold lane.
Unless you want it by the hour.
My prince will definitely need the entire night.
Right. Cash or major credit card?
Nathaniel squints, not sure what he's talking about. A moment later, Edward displays an array of precious gems from his satchel. Their collective worth easily 10 times more than the entire motel. The motel's clerk's eyes go wide at the small king's ransom. Interior motel room a little later. A disgusting no-tell motel room. Musty carpets, bad art, and a locked phone. His leg badly injured from his accident. Edward lies on the bed, hopelessly fumbling with a roll of quarters as he tries to figure out how to make the bed's magic finger five work. As Nathaniel curiously studies the bolted down TV, flipping through the channels, ESPN, CNN, Mexican comedy on Telemundo.
I think, sire, it's a magic glass box filled with wisdom.
On TV, a Spanish man in a bee suit flirts with a busty woman.
Perhaps if you watch it long enough, it will tell you where Giselle is.
The busty woman slaps the grabby bee. The prince finally gets a quarter in the magic fingers. The bed starts to shake violently.
Do you really think so?
Pip rolls his eyes. Even he can tell how ridiculous this is.
I'm almost certain of it.
Nathaniel starts to quietly move toward the door.
If I were you, I wouldn't move from that spot.
As the prince leans in even closer, determined not to miss a word from the magic box.
I think I'll retire for the night, my lord. Save my strength for the coming struggles.
Pip jumps on the bed, warning Edward with an impression of Nathaniel running out with another poison apple.
Nathaniel likes the way I sleep?
No, Pip squeals in fear as Nathaniel leads him away. The interior Nathaniel's motel room closet. A few moments later, Nathaniel's wedged Pip's paws between the metal clip of a wooden pants hanger, leaving him hanging as if he's in a stockade. He throws a do not disturb sign over Pip's head and leaves the room. Wiggling his feet, Pip swings the entire hanger in a 360-degree gymnastic spin over the closet rod, flying down onto the floor, where he hops, hanger and all, up to the motel window. Exterior of the Royal Inn. Moments later, Pip stares wide-eyed out the window as Nathaniel sneaks out into the night. Panicked, Pip uses the hanger to wedge the sliding window open. The hanger finally snaps off and Pip scrambles after Nathaniel. Exterior Manhattan later. The stars are shining on a warm, picture-perfect New York night. Interior Italian family restaurant dining room a little later. Replete with the red leather booths and Chianti bottle candles, the walls boast a corny cardboard diorama of ancient Rome. Morgan's at the waitress stand helping the old Italian mama fold napkins. This is clearly a family place she and Robert come to a lot. At a nearby table, Giselle struggles to eat pizza daintily and fails. Robert smiling at her attempt. Giselle follows his gaze as she turns to Morgan. She smiles appreciatively.
She's such a wonderful girl, so sweet and kind and gentle.
Yeah, she's great.
Giselle stares at Robert, something clearly weighing on her mind.
What?
I'm afraid to ask you.
You want to know about her mom?
How'd you know?
It's what everybody wants to know.
Where is she?
Now that's a depressing story. I don't even like hearing that one.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't ask.
No, it's okay. If you want the very Grimm Brothers version, once upon a time, I had a mother and a wife. But after a while, I don't know. She wanted a different life. Oh no, that rhymes. You're a dangerous influence.
Robert quietly continues his story as Giselle listens.
What can I tell you? Two people in law school, young, idealistic, romantic. Baby comes, bills, fights, exhaustion. I guess she was expecting your version of happily ever after.
Giselle finds herself unable to smile back. For the first time ever, she's experiencing a very fragile, very human pain up close, close enough to touch. Her voice is heavy with sympathy.
I'm so sorry for you both.
Thanks. I'm a big boy. It's her I worry about. That's why I try to keep her away from all the fairy tale stories, you know? Unrealistic expectations, ridiculous wishes. I figure if she never gets her hopes too high, she'll never have too far to fall.
That's sad.
That's life.
But dreams do come true. Maybe something wonderful could happen.
Robert looks at her, caving into her indefatigable optimism.
Forgot. Sorry. I forgot who I was talking to.
I hope you don't forget. I like talking to you.
Giselle suddenly realizes that her words, or rather the tone of them, reveal more than she knew when she was aware of. Robert senses it as well. He smiled back, both of them momentary prisoners to an awkward silence. It's suddenly broken by...
For the lady from a secret admirer.
They both look up to see a waiter, Nathaniel, and yet another hapless disguise that nonetheless manages to fool both Robert and Giselle. He's holding a cool green cocktail in a martini glass.
Sorry. Secret admirer?
Oh, really? What is it?
Nathaniel sets the drink down in front of her, a toxic steam rising almost imperceptibly from the sliced green apple slice.
An apple martini, miss.
Oh, it looks yummy.
Robert smiles, offering up a cautionary warning.
Careful. Those things are lethal.
Giselle looks up at Robert. Nathaniel fights an annoyed sneer.
They have a way of sneaking up on you.
I'll just take a sip.
A sip is all it takes.
Nathaniel watches breathlessly, a mix of anticipation and dread. As Giselle brings the icy, deadly drink up to her mouth, her lips are just about to make contact with the glass when suddenly a small furry animal leaps out of nowhere onto the checker tablecloth. Pip! Everyone watch in shock as Pip knocks the lethal libation out of Giselle's hand with a ninja-like sweep of his tail. Sending it crashing to the floor, the glass smashes into pieces. Nathaniel fumes with fury at seeing his plot foiled as Pip leaps up onto Giselle and plants a happy kiss on her.
Pip, you're here!
Robert's aghast to see this vermin at the table.
What the...
Pip turns towards Robert, baring his teeth in an animal hiss at this intruder to Giselle's affections. Meanwhile, Morgan has wandered back to the table, suddenly wondering as she sees Pip.
Daddy, why is Giselle talking to...
Robert pulls Morgan back.
Don't touch him, Morgan. They're loaded with disease.
Both and Robert watch cluelessly as Giselle tries to walk with the chirping nonverbal Pip, but all he can do is squeak.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Reverting to pantomime, Pip pushes his hair back into a Prince Edward pompadour, striking a heroic prince pose.
The prince is here? That's wonderful.
Wham! Nathaniel suddenly smashes a broom down on the table, almost crushing Pip and igniting the broom on the table candle. Giselle, Robert, and Morgan leap back, startled.
So sorry, all. There's a rat in here.
The patrons and waitress react with horror at the news, a commotion breaking out as Nathaniel looks at the table to see Pip has vanished, frantically waving his broom to extinguish it. He ends up fanning it into a burning torch. Spotting Pip smirking, and Nathaniel runs after him. Smashing every checkered table, Pip hops on, igniting his broom torch until half the restaurant's on fire. As the patrons flee in panic, Robert quickly picks up Morgan, turning to Giselle, still looking for Pip. He hands Morgan to the Italian Marna on her way out, running back for Giselle. As Pip runs through the people's legs, trying to escape, Nathaniel also crawling through people's legs. As Pip leaps into surprise Giselle's arms, Nathaniel swipes at them with his broom. Robert leaping into the prey to wrestle the burning broom away, jumping on Nathaniel. Pip tries to unmask him, but Nathaniel manages to break free as the plastic grapes and ivy ignite. Robert drags an unwilling Giselle out the door, leaving Pip not only frustrated that he couldn't connect with her, but alone with the still vengeance-crazed Nathaniel, literally hot on his tail. Exterior of the Italian restaurant continuous. Robert and Giselle hurry outside, the fire truck pulling up and crowds gathering as Morgan runs up to greet them. Giselle stares into the burning restaurant, worried and wondering about Pip. As a moment later, a news van pulls up. Interior of the Italian restaurant continuous. The fire is spread to the cardboard mural of Rome, the Basilica, the Colosseum, and the Pantheon, all in flames. As an angry Nathaniel appears against the backdrop of the burning empire, carefully scanning the restaurant, he finally spies Pip. Stopping at the last table, Pip sees a kitschy Mona Lisa salt shaker. Unable to resist, he unscrews Mona Lisa's head and throws away the body, stuffing the head in his cheek as smash. Nathaniel's burning broom almost lands on top of him. Pip jumps to the floor as Nathaniel chases the chipmunk into the corner, raising his burning torch to finally smother his little foe, just as Pip is waiting to be extinguished. Nathaniel's knocked over by his high-pressure blast of fire hose from the fireman entering the building. Laid down flat on his face from the hose, Nathaniel rolls over, unsettled to feel his mouth filled with some unknown substance. His gag reflex pushes him to spit out the offending matter, Pip. As the disgusted Pip tries to wipe off the saliva, he looks up to the sea, Nathaniel trapping him from above with an upside-down glass. Interior of the Royal Inn Motel continuous. Prince Edward is still channel surfing for some word of Giselle.
Hey there, all you single guys. Hot local women in your area are waiting to meet you on the party phone line.
Edward flips the channel, coming to a news break in progress.
Apparently, an altercation with a rodent led to this 4-alarm fire.
He spots Giselle standing behind yellow tape. She mouths the words Pip as she scans the street. Robert appears behind her, Morgan beside him as she leads Giselle into his apartment building. Horrified, the prince leaps with his sword to his feet at the sight of his damsel in distress, suddenly gasping with pain from his injuries.
Giselle! What villainy is this? Oh, magic box, I beg you. Tell me where she is that I might effect her rescue.
The restaurant located at Madison and 78th.
Oh, thank you. Madison and 78th.
As Edward limps from the room, we stay on the TV. Nathaniel emerges from the crowd looking for Giselle, holding a wiggling to-go box with Pip trapped inside as he walks past the TV reporter.
Silence, you hairy little toad.
Excuse me?
Interior Robert's apartment later. Giselle sits on Morgan's bed with her, talking her spirits clearly buoyed by the knowledge that Edward's coming for her.
Were you scared back there?
A little. Do you think Pip will be okay?
Oh, I wouldn't worry about Pip. He's very brave. I remember one time that poor wolf was being chased by Little Red Riding Hood in his grandmother's house, and she had an axe. If Pip hadn't been walking past to help.
I don't remember that version.
That's because Fred tells it a little differently.
Pulling back as we reveal Robert at the door, listening to the strange tale and smiling in spite of it. Exterior Robert's apartment later. Sword at the ready, Edward drags himself to Robert's building, where a uniformed doorman outward snores. This front door propped open by a tilted chair. Edward quietly wanders inside. Interior Robert's apartment building, first floor hallway. Edward stares at a row of identical doors that seem to snatch to infinity. He tentatively knocks on the first door. His middle-aged floozy answers door, drink in hand, a cigarette voice.
Where's my pizza, doll?
Edward's eyes go wide as we cut to a few more mystery doors. An old Asian man, his Siamese cat hissing at Edward. A fat man in leather, his initials scowling, turning to a smile. Interior, Robert's living room later. Unable to sleep, Giselle is curiously making her way through Morgan's famous women biography series book, utterly fascinated by the lives of these accomplished women. Giselle turns to see a box-clad Robert emerging from the shower, his hair still wet.
Listen, Giselle, that was a nice story about your chipmunk friend and all, but
yes.
I know what it's like when someone disappoints you. It's tempting to want to see things how you wish they were instead of how they are.
I don't wish that he's coming, Robert. He is.
Right, because the chipmunk told you.
That's right. Pip actually said that he...
Listen, Giselle, I don't know if you're being funny or ironic, but chipmunks can't talk.
Well, apparently not here.
So, in lieu of taking advice from a forest rodent, I just wanted to tell you, if it did turn out you decided to stay in New York, I can help you. If you needed to talk to an immigration lawyer or get a job, find a place, I'd like to help.
But Robert's generous offer only leaves Giselle more confused.
That's very kind, Robert, but Edward is coming.
While Robert's increasingly troubled by her refusal to face facts.
Yeah, but what if he doesn't?
Giselle's confusion turns to actual annoyance at his rude tone.
Why do you keep saying that?
Because I deal with this stuff every day. Usually when a relationship has issues from the get-go, things don't get much better.
He is coming.
Giselle, I don't think so.
Yes.
I'd have to disagree. No.
Is that the only word you know? No?
I mean, I know.
No, no, no. Over and over again. Every word you say. Robert, sometimes you just make me so...
Make you so... What?
Giselle suddenly pauses, wondering what exactly she is feeling. Her face fills with a sudden epiphany as the word comes out.
Angry. I think I'm angry.
Really?
Giselle nods, her breathing suddenly ragged as this inexplicable feeling, her face flushed with excitement.
Yes, I'm angry. I feel very...
Are you okay?
Concerned, Robert lightly touches Giselle's shoulder, and Giselle inhales sharply, glancing at his hand and back again.
Oh, yes. I'm fine.
You sure?
Uh-huh. Fit as a fiddle.
Okay. Night.
Robert turns and walks back to his room, Giselle helplessly taking in the view from the other side, flustered as she swallows hard. Dissolved to exterior New York City morning. A burning sun backlights the skyline like a halo. Interior Robert's apartment building hallway morning. Bright light floods in the hallway as an exhausted Edward drags himself down the hall, ringing the last bell on the last door. Interior, the front hallway continues. Morgan opens the door and goes wide-eyed.
Hello, little girl.
Hi?
Interior, the living room, continuous. Close on a handwritten note. Robert, can't wait for tonight. XOXO Nancy. We reveal the notes attached to a gold lame prince costume and dry cleaning plastic. Robert stares at a loss. Giselle's thrilled.
Gold pantaloons. Robert, you'll look so sparkly.
Great.
Daddy, someone's here.
Who is it?
They hear a boisterous royal male voice from the front hall.
It is I, Prince Edward of Andalasia.
Robert slowly turns around. This can't be real.
Come to seek my lovely bride, the fair Giselle.
Oh my.
He's here.
Apparently.
Giselle anxiously leaps up, a bundle of nerves.
Oh, why? Oh my goodness. How do I look?
Slightly stunned?
I meant, how do I look?
You look beautiful.
Staring wistfully at her, Robert realizes his remark was much more honest than he intended. Giselle realizes it as well before either has a chance to respond.
Giselle!
Morgan escorts Prince Edward in. The prince beams as he finally sees the object of his quest. Giselle beams back.
Edward!
Stepping towards each other, the prince lifts Giselle high in the air in an exuberantly romantic twirl. His feelings swell until he suddenly breaks into a heartfelt a cappella.
I've been dreaming of a true love's kiss.
He sings too?
Edward's sword knocks several knickknacks off the coffee table. Robert quickly picks them up and places them back on the table.
No problem. Nothing broken.
And miss, I have begun to miss. Pure and sweet, waiting to complete my love song.
As Prince Edward swings Giselle back around counterclockwise, knocking them off all over again.
Right. Could you be careful?
Suddenly taking notice of Robert, Edward angrily draws his sword and brandishes it at Robert, who steps back, slightly terrified.
You're the one who's been holding my Giselle captive.
Let's stay calm.
Any last words before I dispatch you?
You have got to be kidding me.
Strange words.
Giselle quickly steps in front of Robert, blocking the sword.
No, it's all right, Edward. These are my friends.
Oh. Yes, somewhere there's a maid I've never met, who was made.
But as Edward keeps singing, Giselle looks at him, inexplicably distracted.
Who was made.
Prince suddenly stops mid-lyric, staring at Giselle, confused.
To finish.
What's wrong?
You're not singing.
Oh, I'm not. I'm sorry. I was just thinking.
Thinking?
Before we leave, there's one thing I was hoping to do. It's a strange exotic custom they partake of here.
Name it, my love, and it is done.
I want to go on a date.
A date?
Giselle hesitates as she nervously explains.
Yes. You know, we could go out to dinner, talk about ourselves, what we like, don't like, interests. A date.
Robert and Morgan both look up startled, perhaps even more surprised than the prince. Exterior Robert's apartment a few minutes later. Out on the front sidewalk, the prince holds Giselle's hands. Robert and Morgan stand almost like faux chaperones behind her.
Very well, then. Until our date tonight. Take care of my lovely bride, Presence.
Presents?
He meant it in a nice way, I think.
A Sparklets delivery guy enters their building, lugging a jug of water on his shoulder. Narcissa's angry face suddenly appears in the bottom of the container, glaring at Edward and Giselle. Interior, an upscale Manhattan bar. Moments later, a terrified Nathaniel stares down into his large martinis. Fuming Queen Narissa glares up from between the olives.
I don't know how they found each other. It's a very strange place. If you could just see your way in your infinite benevolence to give me another chance.
Another chance? You spineless slug, you're out of chances.
Nathaniel nervously clamps down on his wiggling to-go box. Pip. The bartender nervously eyes the drunk talking to his drink.
Your Majesty, you don't mean...
Find me a tower!
Crack! Nathaniel watches in horror as his martini glass explodes. Interior Robert's apartment a little later. Now dressed for the office, Robert is latching up his briefcase as he prepares to say goodbye to Giselle. He looks up at her, a palpable tension between them at this awkward moment.
So, if you're leaving tonight,
Yes.
I guess I won't see you anymore.
Probably not.
Unless you come to town at some point. We could all go out for dinner.
That sounds nice.
There's a sense in their voices that neither believes this.
I'm just saying. It's not exactly like we're talking about, forever.
And ever.
Right. So, good luck on your date.
And you with Nancy.
Thanks.
They share an awkward silence is thankfully cut short by...
Daddy, what are you still doing here?
Giselle and Robert turn to see Morgan appearing from her bedroom wearing a tiny, exact replica of Giselle's green peasant frock.
What do you think?
Robert spies the other missing curtain, not nearly as bothered.
It's wonderful.
Morgan smiles, grabbing Robert's attaché, handing it to him as she leads him to the front door, very much taking charge of the day.
Good. Now, we have a lot to do today, so you need to get to work.
Okay. So Mrs. Ruby?
We'll be here to babysit at 5:30. Yes, now please get going.
Robert shares a last smile with Giselle as Morgan closes the front door behind him. Morgan notices Giselle's troubled expression.
What's wrong?
Giselle looks down at her, needing to confide in someone.
I'm not certain. I think I'm a little confused.
About?
Everything. This date. I don't know what to do, what to wear, how to act. I don't even have a fairy godmother here.
You don't need a fairy godmother. We have something a whole lot better.
Better?
Daddy's credit card. He says this is only for emergencies, and this is definitely an emergency.
Exterior Park Avenue later. A fabulous glimpse of all the hippest upscale retail shops. Interior, a glamorous dress store. Continuous. Morgan tugs Giselle by the hand along the aisles. Giselle gasps in wonder at this warehouse-sized crop of chic designer fashions.
It's amazing. Who sewed all these dresses?
Probably some 10-year-old girl in the third world sweatshop.
She's good.
Interior, an upscale makeup counter. Later, Giselle and Morgan sit side by side trying on the sample makeup. Morgan explains the subtleties of cosmetics application.
The thing they say about makeup is that less is more. That way you look sophisticated.
Morgan looks at Giselle, fighting the urge to scream. No. So Giselle turns eagerly to Morgan, her face coated in so much makeup she looks like a candidate for clown school.
Do I look sophisticated?
Morgan looks at Giselle, fighting the urge to scream. Interior Robert's office later. A stunned Robert sits across the from Catherine and Stephen, watching disturbed as they hold hands and trade glances.
I was thinking about that girl said about Catherine's eyes sparkling. That's the first thing I noticed when we met. I mean, look at her. It's true. They really do sparkle.
Oh, Stephen.
They share a spontaneously loving kiss. Robert framed between them as he shakes his head in disbelief, his voice grave with concern.
Look, I have to say, as your attorney, Catherine and Stephen, I'm sure Henry will back me up. You're both acting very impetuously here. This sounds like a purely emotional reaction.
I know, isn't it wonderful?
I mean, you shouldn't let a chance meeting with one adamantly somewhat charming but very headstrong and definitely misguided girl cause you to alter the course of your entire life.
Maybe it wasn't a chance. Maybe it was no accident that we met her.
I'm sorry. I find that very hard to believe.
Maybe you need to try harder?
Look, you guys had problems. I have hundreds of pages of depositions here.
Everyone has problems. Everyone has bad times. Do we sacrifice all the good times because of it?
Robert stares at a loss, no longer certain of this question.
You're not making me feel like a very good divorce lawyer.
Maybe you're not.
Exterior hot dog stand later. Now sporting fashionably conservative makeup, Giselle shares a hot dog with Morgan, carefully imitating Morgan's moves as she slathers condiments onto her dog. Giselle smiles appreciatively.
You know I couldn't have done this without you. You were a big help.
Really?
Really.
Thanks.
Morgan smiles, starting to say something, but hesitates.
What is it, sweetie?
Nothing.
Tell me, please.
I just never knew, that this is what it could feel like.
Like what?
To have a mother.
Flushed with emotion at Morgan's words, Giselle kisses her forehead.
Oh, thank you, dear. And soon you'll have a new mother.
You mean stepmother?
Giselle takes Morgan's chin in her hand, a reassuring smile.
It's not true what they say. I've known so many wonderful and kind stepmothers. Edward's got a stepmother. I've never met her, but I hear she's just lovely.
Exterior Times Square continuous. As the sewer crew puts back the manhole cover, ready to finish the job, they're suddenly hurled back by a deafening boom. The manhole blows up like it's been rigged with explosives, twirling like a cast iron frisbee. It shatters the plate glass front window of Tower Records. We hear the cutting bite of a raucous electric guitar as Elton John's anthemic opus, The Bitch Is Back, kicks in. The queen rises up from the manhole with a slow lipstick twirl, dressed in skin-tight black leather and a matching cowl. Hands on her hips, she surveys these alien clients with cultivated contempt. Reaching out a long, lithe leg, she starts to strut. Exterior, the sidewalk is continuous. Hardened jade New Yorkers spreading like the Red Sea before her, instinctively stepping aside at her commanding presence. Children's balloons spontaneously burst as she passes. Nerissa passes an unknowing businessman and plucks his cell phone from his hand, quickly flipping it open.
Queen.
Your Majesty.
Did you find me a tower?
Exterior, the Chrysler Building continuous. A shining view of his stainless steel, crowned Art Deco masterpiece. We hear Nathan's responding voice.
Yes, it's rather modest.
Exterior, the Chrysler Building, crowned continuous. A magnificent vaulted Art Deco room surrounded by large triangular windows. Nathaniel speaks on a 30s vintage phone.
But I think it might suffice for your needs.
Boom! The room's double doors burst open. Queen Nerissa stares angrily from the doorway, her eyes like sharpened daggers.
Mummy's here.
Nathaniel's weak smile belies his underlying terror. Pips peeks out from his to-go box prison, equally frightened. Interior Robert's office. Later, Robert is finishing getting dressed in his gold lame prince costume, unconsciously, still humming the song from the park. He hears a snide voice behind him, Carl.
Hey, Prince Charming.
I guess you heard about the Schumers.
I need divorce lawyers, not matchmakers. Maybe Monday you should go back to depositions.
Robert nods, not nearly as upset as he probably should be. Exterior, Robert's apartment continuous. An older matronly babysitter stands at the door. A long black limo is pulling up as Morgan walks down the front steps in her PJs and coat with Giselle, who's wearing a long coat.
The main thing to remember about boys is that they're only after one thing.
What is it?
I'm not sure. Nobody will tell me.
The limo comes to a stop as Prince Edward steps out, looking dashing in a classic black tuxedo. Hugging Morgan goodnight. Giselle hurries into the car as Edward opens her door. Exterior, the hot dog stand later. The limousine is parked to the curb. Edward listens confused as Giselle orders her hot dogs in some sort of foreign language.
I want to stay. I need 2 hot dogs, Gus. Kraut, mustard, the works, and a couple of root beers to wash them down.
A few moments later, Giselle and Edward wait for a planter for their hot dogs. Edward's former demurred bride, now a non-stop diatribe of excitement.
I want to stay busy after the wedding. Of course, there's the ceremonial duties, which I'm quite happy to do, but with all my spare time, I thought I could do other things.
What about happily ever after?
Oh, I'm very excited about that. I was thinking more about the day after happily ever after. Perhaps we could do some volunteer work, a soup kitchen for the peasants, maybe even start up a small business.
Edward listens cluelessly. He has no idea what she's talking about. There's a loud crack in the sky as it starts to rain. Gus hands them their dogs and drinks as Edward politely leads Giselle by the hand back into the waiting in the limo. Exterior, the Plaza Hotel later. Limos and town cars empty lavish guests at the front door. Interior, the Plaza Hotel ballroom continuous. The hotel's ballroom has been meticulously lavishly converted into a 16th century palace. A string band plays courtly minuets as lawyers, accountants, and other sundry white-collar executives masquerade as lords and ladies of the kingdom. Out on the dance floor, the Prince Robert dances with Lady Nancy. Despite the romantic atmosphere, Robert seems very distracted.
What are you thinking about?
Everything, I guess. You and I, the future.
I like the way you think.
Interior, the limo later. The rain beats on the limo windows as Giselle and Edward eat their hot dogs. Giselle's still talking between bites.
I mean, besides the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, there's really not a thing in the way of shopping. And I thought, clean all that straw and spun gold out of the West Tower, and we could put some really lovely shops in there.
Edward smiles patiently, utterly clueless, but patiently.
Have you heard of Madame Curie?
He nods his head, lost. Giselle is suddenly self-conscious.
I'm talking too much, aren't I? I can't help it. It's all just sort of bursting out of me. I'm not sure where this is all coming from.
Nor I.
Well, you know, we don't have to just talk on our date. We have all sorts of options, a movie, bowling. Oh, actually, if you're interested, there's a ball going on.
Edward leaps at this idea, anything to end this god-awful date.
A ball? Why didn't you say so?
Outside, we hear a loud, foreboding crack of thunder. Exterior, the Chrysler building. A little later, rain falls in heavy sheets upon the city, the flashing lightning reflecting with blinding brightness off the stainless steel crown. Interior, the Chrysler building crown continuous. Queen Nerissa stands at the large triangular window, her wicked face framed in eerie moonlight. A splintered image slowly appears in the shards of water. Giselle and Prince Edward hurrying from a taxi cab into the Plaza Hotel. A smile of absolute evil spreads across the Queen's face. Donning a black hooded cape, she turns away from the window. Across the room, Nathaniel Tonnet's pit, spinning him inside a plastic hamster ball like the Harlem Globetrotters. Nathaniel's cruel smile slowly fades as Nerissa approaches the ball, coming to a halting stop as both Nathaniel and Pip look up at her with a quiet terror. Interior, the Plaza Hotel ballroom continuous. Robert and Nancy dance cheek to cheek to a slow song.
So, anything specific you want to talk about?
I guess. I've been mulling us over. These last few days especially.
Robert suddenly cut off by an audible gasp of wonder from the crowd. Robert and Nancy turned to the source of this amazement. At the top of the grand staircase stands a young woman, a tuxedo-clad young man next to her, helping her off with her coat to reveal Giselle, utterly resplendent in a stunning modern dress, elegant and striking, sexy. the height of sophistication. Ironically, the only modern woman in a room full of princesses. The band starts to play a romantic waltz as Prince Edward escorts Giselle down the stairs. And while every eye in the room is on Giselle, her eyes can't help but fall on Robert, staring back at her, helplessly overwhelmed.
What's she doing here?
I have no idea.
Robert looks at Nancy and then Giselle, not at all sure himself. As Giselle and Edward hit the last step, Robert looks at her.
I'm a little surprised to see you.
I'm surprised too.
Change of partners for our minuet, please. As all the couples spontaneously break apart, Robert and Nancy do the same. Nancy drifts into the arms of the closest man to her, Prince Edward. Ever the gentleman, Edward chivalrously leads Nancy, craning her head back at Robert, off into the crowd, leaving Robert and Giselle standing alone. Their eyes lock on each other as Robert offers his hand. Giselle gives a slight curtsy as she takes it. The rest of the room is suddenly falling away as Robert and Giselle slowly dance onto the ballroom floor. Giselle whispers to him.
You told me you couldn't dance.
I said I didn't. I never said I can't.
I'm glad to see you can.
You're in my arms, and all the world is calm. The music's playing on for only two. So close together, and when I'm with you, so close to feeling alive. Life goes by, romantic dreams must die. So I bid mine goodbye and never knew. So close, was waiting here with you. And now, forever I know. All I want is to hold you so close to reaching that famous happy ending. Almost believing this one's not pretending. Now you're beside me, and look how far we've come. So far along, so close. Oh, how could I face the faceless days if I should lose you right now? We're so close to reaching that famous happy ending. Almost believing this one's not pretend. Let's go on, even though we know who we are. So close, and still so far.
The music swells to a lush crescendo as Robert and Giselle spin together to the center of the dance floor. The imposing crystal chandelier rains a shower of incandescent stars upon them as they twirl across the lavish ballroom. Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, The King and I, all the greatest romantic dancing moments in the history of great romantic dance moments, suddenly finding their successor in these two. Well, across the room, Nancy dances with Prince Edward, each casting a jealous glance over at Robert and Giselle.
You two are like an item?
Giselle is the love of my life, my intended, my heart's true desire.
Wow.
Is something wrong?
Just the way you said that, so straightforward and unself-conscious. Not a hint of irony. It's very romantic. Hi. You've got quite a pair of shoulders there, don't you?
Thank you. Kind of you to notice.
Back to Robert and Giselle. As they dance, their faces almost close enough to touch. Robert can't help taking in her beauty.
How's your date?
I'm sorry?
Your date with the prince?
Oh, it's going splendidly.
That's good. I'm glad.
I'm glad too. And you and Nancy, congratulations are in order?
Well, practically. I guess I have you to thank for bringing us back together.
Well, congratulations.
Feeling a sudden swell of emotion, Giselle's smile fades away as she presses her head to Robert's shoulder.
Are you all right?
Never better.
Robert holds her tighter. They've never been this close to one another, and at the same time, never further apart. Suddenly, Giselle feels a tap on her shoulder. She turns to see Nancy grabbing onto Robert with a proprietary grip.
You don't mind, do you?
Oh, no, not at all.
Giselle's face fills with surprise at their sudden, sporadic. Robert leaves, Robert offering a sad parting glance as Nancy twirls him away, leaving Giselle standing by herself, apart from all the other couples, looking as alone as when she first arrived in New York. A wave of conflicting emotions rises up. Gone is the happy girl from the fairy tale, and her place is a grown-up woman, her heart half lost to a new world she knows holds no place for her, as she fights her welling tears.
Are you ready to go home now?
Giselle turns to Edward, casting half a glance towards Robert. Her gaze isn't lost on Edward, who sees with quiet jealousy.
Yes, Edward, finally I am.
You're crying.
Giselle forces a smile, telling the first lie in her life.
Only with happiness.
I'll get your wrap. We can finally leave this madness behind.
Her back to the open balcony door, Giselle stands half in the light of the ball and half in the darkness of night. Feeling eyes on her, Giselle slowly turns around, startled to see. Exterior of the hotel balcony continues, the dark silhouette of a female figure standing almost close enough to touch. Giselle watches with quiet uncertainty as the woman slowly takes off her hood, suddenly gasping as she sees it's the old hag. More hideous than ever in this live incarnation, her pale skin glows with a sickly corpse-like pallor. She smiles at Giselle.
Hello, my dear.
You.
I'm so glad to see you, child. I've been so worried. Such a terrible accident. You're coming to this place.
The hag's eyes move knowingly past Giselle's shoulder to Robert and Nancy dancing inside. Somehow, Giselle knows this woman sees right through her deepest feelings laid bare before her.
So much sadness here. So much pain. To never be with the one you love. Doomed to spend eternity with another. Oh, it doesn't have to be like that. I can help you forget all this hurt. Make all the bad memories go away.
The old hag reaches into her robes and presents a perfect, glossy, shiny red apple. Giselle stares at it, ripe and red and luscious.
Well, one bite, my love, and all this will go away. New York, your time here, you won't remember anything. Just sweet dreams and happy endings.
Giselle looks at the apple, so easy, so tempting, tortured and torn. She turns her gaze back to the dance just in time to see Nancy lean in and kiss Robert. The most powerful force on earth, Giselle exhales, all her hopes and dreams pouring out of her like a last breath, closes her eyes in torment. Interior of the ballroom, a moment later. Loud thunder suddenly crashes over the din of the pouring rain. The dance floor momentarily flooded with the blinding lightning. We hear the thump of a body as we see a close-up of Giselle's hand landing on the floor. The bitten apple rolls out of her fingers and across the floor past oblivious guests through the feet of dancing partners until it finally comes to rest next to a man's foot, Robert's. He looks down at the apple confused. His eyes scan the crowd.
Giselle!
Robert looks up to see Prince Edward shouting down an alarm from the top of the stairs. Robert follows the prince's gaze to a now parting circle, shocked to see Giselle lying on the floor unconscious, an old hag leaning over her. Aghast, Robert breaks away from Nancy, running to Giselle, as the prince leaps from the stairs to the chandelier, swinging over Robert as they both rush to reach Giselle.
Stop, foul hag, I command you.
Looking up at these two approaching rescuers, the hag hisses defiantly, scooping Giselle up in her arms as she runs out of the ballroom, one of Giselle's shoes tumbling off as she leaps with Giselle over the balcony. Prince Edward rushes out to the balcony in her wake. Robert runs to the edge of the balcony as well, frantic with worry.
Giselle?
Both Edward and Robert watch helplessly as Giselle is quickly loaded by the hag into a taxi, which takes off. Robert turns to Edward with a "what should we do" expression, but Edward's already leaping over the balcony, running, landing to his limo as his car immediately takes off after the old hag. There's a long, studied silence in the ballroom as suddenly the party guests break into unanimous applause at this fabulous piece of party theater.
Marvelous! What did you think?
Wonderful. Much better than last year's show.
Exterior of the balcony continuous. Nancy at his side, a panicked Robert watches the hag's taxi roar down the street, Edward's limo in hot pursuit. Feeling helpless and impotent, Robert's overwhelmed by a troubling epiphany.
I don't believe it. The hag climbing out of the hole, and Alicia, it was all... Help me out, Nancy. What was it?
It was real?
Robert turns to Nancy, his voice overwhelmed with urgency.
I'm sorry, Nancy. I have to go. I can't explain it. I didn't mean to do this to you, us. But I think the truth of it is...
Nancy puts a finger to his lips, silencing him.
It's all right, Robert. I think I already know the truth. I saw the way you looked at her. I know that look. Any woman would recognize it. Any woman would want that for themselves. I know I would. I think maybe I even deserve that.
Nance.
Shh. No more words. Action. You've got a princess to the rescue. You got a princess to rescue.
Nancy gives him an encouraging kiss on his forehead as Robert dashes out the door. Exterior New York Street a few moments later. A still princely clad Robert runs down the street as fast as he can, trying to catch up, finally coming to a gasping stop as he looks up to see the cab and the limo have disappeared out of sight. Giselle's whereabouts are now a complete mystery to him.
Jeez, where in the world? How am I ever gonna...
And then Robert sees something else down the street. Robert squints as he watches a small clear plastic ball rolling frantically toward him until in a few moments Pip is at his feet, banging his little fists to escape. Recognizing him, Robert frantically talks as he fiddles with the release latch.
You're the chipmunk friend, right? What the hell are you doing here? I wish I could tell you how much trouble she's in. I don't have any idea where they took her, and...
Putting an impatient finger to his lips, Pip gives a loud shh.
Did you just shh me?
Exterior New York City street continuous. As Giselle slowly dies inside, the taxi weaves wildly through traffic, the prince leaning out the window of the limo as they begin to catch up to the taxi. Interior, the taxi continues, frantically trying to drive the taxi. Nathaniel stares down sadly at the dying Giselle, his face filling with sympathy despite himself. Looking back at the advancing limo, the old hag screams.
Faster, moron!
Exterior, the city street continues, and amazed Robert is surprised to find himself playing charades with the chipmunk. 2 words. Oh, that's you.
2 words. Sounds like...
A growing crowd gathering around, watching in wonder as Pip pretends to weep great melodramatic tears.
Who? Tears? Cry? Cry?
Pip smiles and points, making on-the-nose gestures, suddenly switching to a ramrod straight military salute.
Okay. Salute. Army. Yes, sir? Sir. It's sir.
Pip nods emphatically as Robert tries to put the words together.
Chrysler? Chrysler. Chrysler! The Chrysler building!
Pip smiles, thrilled that finally somebody understands. Robert plucks up a startled Pip by the hand and starts to run, shouting,
"A taxi!"
Exterior, another New York street, continuous. The limo is catching up, only 3 car lengths from the taxi. Edward climbs out of the sunroof, readying to jump on the taxi. Interior, the cab continues. Nathaniel is increasingly nervous at this reckless car chase.
I just thought the idea of this whole exercise was to avoid discovery, ma'am. You know, subtlety, a measure of restraint.
No one's going to get hurt. Damn it, to hell with restraint.
Exterior, the cab continuous. The old hag sticks her head out of the cab. The limo is now only 2 cars away, and Edward is perched to hop into the taxi and save Giselle. Panicked, the old hag points a gnarled finger.
Thank you, BT finger. Oh, crap, it went scrolled past it. Shit. Shiny metal chariots, pray you don't rust. Time to leave you in my dust.
Zzz, we hear the sound of a sizzling static charge as an electrical cloud shoots out into all the cars, their batteries dying en masse as traffic screeches to a crashing halt. Undeterred, Edward is thrown from the roof of his limo. He rolls off, leapfrogging over the stalled cars in pursuit of taxi and Giselle. Interior, Robert's taxi continuous. Robert and Pip's taxi turns the corner to find themselves at the tail end of the hag-created traffic jam. Robert shrugs.
This is just perfect. What are we supposed to do now?
Pip points out the window across the street where a traffic cop eats a hot dog, his horse beside him. Robert shakes his head.
Are you kidding me? It's grand theft. That's 3 years in Rikers.
Exterior, the streets of Manhattan continuous. A low angle as a mighty steed jumps over us, 1,000 pounds of muscle on top of it, a handsome young divorcee attorney channeling his inner prince, spurring on his horse like John Wayne in Golden Age. Pip smacking the horse's ass behind him. As Robert turns the corner, we see the digital time readout on the Chase Manhattan Bank, 11:52, only 8 minutes to midnight. Exterior, Chrysler Building, front entrance, continuous. Nathaniel carries Giselle into the building as the old hag turns back to see Prince Edward on foot and Robert on horseback, both quickly converging on the old building from separate sides.
Hear me as I unfurl my wrath. Let the roots of this city block your path.
Her spell cast, the old hag quickly follows Nathaniel inside. Exterior, the street near the Chrysler Building, continuous. Robert, Pip, and the prince all converge in front of the Chrysler Building together, but before they can get near the entrance, rumble! The ground starts to shake below them, a low, deep grinding noise. The pavement begins to crack under their feet, fissures shooting out like spiderwebs beneath them as Robert's horse rears up. The shaking intensifies, they all quickly step back. Interior, the Chrysler Building elevator continuous. The lights flash as the Art Deco elevator makes a violent descent, the old hag cackling loudly as her face melts and shifts, transforming her back into the deadly beautiful Queen Nerissa. Exterior, Chrysler Building continuous. Robert, Pip, and Edward watch in horror, slabs of concrete sidewalk upending themselves as the hundreds of miles of electric wire and huge power cables that run below the city suddenly burst out of the broken pavement. The severed edges of the cables spark and flame like deadly vipers spitting out venomous doses of live electricity. Robert, Pip, and the prince watch in wonder as the cables quickly snake their way up the building like a futuristic version of the evil thorns that overtake Maleficent's castle in Sleeping Beauty, the deadly power lines tangling and twisting around the building all the way up to the stainless steel crown. Prince Edward steps forward, pressing Robert aside.
Stand back. I know your game. You're an interloper for her affections.
Hey, look, I just want her to be all right.
Then I'll lead the way.
Robert tries to stop Edward as he hurries toward the high voltage electrical cables.
Look, that's 80 zillion volts of high voltage, and it will zap your royal butt royally. I really think this is more of a 911 situation.
Running forward, Edward unsheathes his sword to do battle. Surprised and confused as his sword is immediately plucked from his hand by some powerful invisible force. Everybody watching as the sword flies into the upper strata of the building, exploding in sparks. Edward quietly turns to Robert.
I suppose if you really want to go first.
But Robert's still staring up at the side of the building, trying to figure out what's happened, so you see a glimpse of understanding. Interior, Chrysler Building crown continuous. Giselle lies unconscious as Nathaniel and the Queen stand above her, her breathing increasingly shallow as the Queen waits for her to die. Staring at this beautiful fading girl, Nathaniel's filled with guilt, his loathing for the Queen reaching a fevered pitch.
Oh, stop staring at her with all that maudlin puppy dog pity. It's quite vile.
You're going to let her die for falling in love? That's her big crime?
Nerissa is taken aback by this uncharacteristic show of impudence.
Crime enough, you boat-licking toad.
Nathaniel glares at her and Nerissa glares back, their mutual antipathy boiling over into a battle of who will break first.
I live to serve. I live to serve. I live to serve.
Much better.
Interior carts are building continuous. Robert, Edward, and Pip are stuffed inside a shopping cart. Robert pushes the cart away from an indignant homeless man and across the street towards the Chrysler building, trying to explain his plan to a very uncertain Edward.
There's a positive wire and a negative one. You twist a bunch of electrified cables together and you get a magnet.
And?
I think this building's turned into a really big magnet. I mean, I won't really know for sure until we get close enough to it with something metal, but...
Whoosh! Before he can finish his sentence, the shopping carts are violently lifted into the air by the powerful magnetic force of the cables. Holding on for life, Robert and company gasp with fear as they're instantly pulled tens of stories above street level, the grocery cart suddenly attaching with a loud click to some buzzing cables. Reaching over the cables, Pip jimmies open a window and crawls into the building, the prince and Pip following behind. Interior Chrysler building hallway continuous. Robert, Pip, and the prince skip 3 steps at a time up the stairwell, Pip leading the way as they make it to the crown. Interior Chrysler building foyer continuous. Edward slams his body against the locked doors of the suite, reluctantly accepting Robert's help, the two of them finally smashing the doors open. Pip scurries behind as the two men, Interior Chrysler building suite continuous, tumble together into the room. They both look horrified.
Oh dear.
Oh no.
Nerissa looks up, shocked to be found out by her son. The prince is aghast at the sight of his stepmother's clear betrayal.
What in the name of...
Edward!
A distraught Nathaniel sits holding Giselle's hand. She lies motionless on a table, pale as death. Nathaniel turns to them. Robert and Prince Edward rush frantically to Giselle's side. Robert urgently feels her pulse.
She's barely alive.
I'm trying to help her, dear. I'm so worried about her.
Hearing this, Nathaniel finally reaches his breaking point. He steps forward, finally unleashing the full fury of his contempt.
No, don't you see? She's lying. It was her idea, all of it. She's the old hag. She sent her here in the first place. You vile, miserable, hateful beast. Oh, that felt so good.
Nerissa hisses at Nathaniel as Edward turns to her aghast.
You did this evil deed?
Yes. I did it. It's just as well you know. Who else was going to spare you from your youthful lack of judgment?
Robert's already dialing for help on his cell phone.
Hello, 911. I've got a woman here. Some sort of poison?
It's no use.
As Edward struggles with this betrayal, his face filled with rage.
Quiet, you wretch!
Don't take that superior tone with me, young man. I'm your mother.
Stepmother.
She's Caucasian, about 23, 120 pounds.
I told you it's quite hopeless.
I am the future king of Andalasia, and your wickedness will not stand.
What?
You're finished, Nerissa. You will never return to the throne.
Queen steps forward to take on Edward, but before she can lay a hand on him, Nathaniel sneaks behind and locks her arms back.
You little turncoat!
Gong, we hear the low rumble of a church bell in the distance, sounding out the 12 chimes before the stroke of midnight.
Ha! It's almost midnight. You'll never save her now.
Hang up the phone.
What?
That won't help her. She needs more than that.
Robert slowly clicks off the phone, desperately going on faith.
More?
Pip looks up as well towards Nathaniel.
Oh, don't you tell them.
What do you mean more?
Don't you dare tell them.
Gong, as Nerissa struggles against his grip, Nathaniel covers her mouth with his hand, preventing any future incantations. Robert and the prince stare, lost as to his meaning. Strangely between the two of them, it's Robert who slowly realizes.
True love's kiss. There's nothing more powerful in the world.
Gong. Nathaniel smiles. The prince looks over at him, quickly nodding.
Yes, I knew that. Of course.
Robert and Nathaniel watch as the prince steps toward Giselle. He gently kisses her, waiting for her to wake. Nothing. Giselle doesn't move. Dong. Everyone waits on Giselle's reaction. Edward frantically kisses her again. Still nothing.
It's not working.
Dong. Robert puts his head to her chest, desperately listening.
Oh no, we're losing her.
Dong.
It has to work. There's no other answer.
Dong. Prince Edward turns to Robert with a troubled expression.
Unless I'm not the one.
Not the one? What are you talking about?
Dong.
It must be you.
Don't you see? You're her one true love. If it's not you, she's done for.
Dong. 10 strokes. Even Pip realizes this. He urgently pushes Robert forward.
Are you crazy? I just met her a few days ago. She and I...
Robert slowly turns to Giselle, taking in her angelic face. All his doubts seem to come into play.
Please don't go, Giselle. Now when I just found you.
Dong. Only 1 stroke left.
Kiss her. It's her only chance.
Nervous and scared for the both of them, Robert hesitantly leans forward and tenderly, gently presses his lips to Giselle's. Dong, the stroke of midnight. Almost instantly, the flush of life rushes back to her cheeks. Suddenly, Giselle starts to blink until she slowly opens her eyes. Looking up adoringly into the face of the man who loves her more than any other, her one true love, she slowly smiles.
I knew it was you.
They come together in a glorious embrace, the perfectly logical end to an illogical, implausible journey. Pip leaps up and down for joy in a chipmunkish victory dance. A traumatized Edward gasps, knowing his love is now lost forever. As all eyes turn to Edward, Nerissa takes advantage of their distraction to flip Nathaniel on his back and break free. Hearing Nathaniel crash to the floor, everyone looks at Nerissa, shocked.
I have nothing now. I've lost everything, and it's all because of you.
As Nerissa speaks, a terrible fury moves through her, her body literally shaking with anger, her eyes ablaze like fire.
You've ruined my life, you little forest rat!
Veins beneath her skin start to move in shimmering waves, her very bones start to shift and transform.
I'll be damned if you ever see one day of your happily ever after. Bah!
She lets out a tortured, aching, hateful scream as the evil inside her starts to externalize itself. Her body starts to stretch and morph into a lean, muscular, reptilian Nerissa beast. Clawed, talon-like hands emerge from her cloak, a sinister spiked tail uncurling from beneath her cape until in mere moments, only a trace of her beautiful face is visible in her rapacious animal visage. With lightning speed, the Nerissa beast suddenly grabs Robert and pulls him back toward on the large triangular windows. She croaks out her words with a gurgling, animalistic voice.
So this one's your boy toy, eh? Well, that's fine with me.
Robert starts to choke from her grip, struggling helplessly.
Stop it! Stop it now!
The Nerissa beast crashes a clawed through one of the triangular windows, the pelting rain and wind howling in from outside, a parching snarl as she drags Robert with her out the window. Giselle, Nathaniel, and Edward stare, momentarily stunned and more than a little intimidated. Suddenly, Giselle runs to the window, fearlessly scrambling out to the violent elements, Pip at her heels, sharing a guilty look at their hesitation. Nathaniel and Edward quickly follow her. The exterior of the Chrysler Building crown south face continuous. The wind and pouring rain are howling furiously as the Nerissa beast pulls Robert out into the crown of the building, eye level with all the other towering skyscrapers of New York.
What are you doing? Are you crazy?
No. Vengeful, spiteful, vindictive, but never crazy.
Grasping her strong claws into the thick tangles of wires, Nerissa starts to pull the terrified Robert up the side of the crown.
Hold on, Robert!
The Nerissa beast turns back, shocked to see Giselle is actually following along as they climb. Robert's just as surprised.
Giselle!
Fiercely determined, Giselle grabs and tugs at the slippery, twisted cables to keep up with them, shouting over the rain.
You're going to be okay, Robert.
My, quite the brave display. Unfortunately, you've been reading the wrong story. This one ends with a rather pronounced splat.
Nerissa effortlessly leaps with an animal agility up another tier of the crown, determined not to lose her man. Giselle leaps into the air, grabbing for her life into Nerissa's tail. The rain is pounding as the terrified Robert watches Nerissa cruelly try to shake Giselle off over the side of the building. Exterior of the crown west face continues. Moving along the opposite side of the crown, Nathaniel and Edward helplessly witness the scene. Pip covers his eyes in despair. Exterior of the crown south face continuous. Suddenly, in midair himself, Robert yells down to Giselle, who's still trying to climb up Nerissa's wet, slick, flailing tail.
Giselle, go back in. Don't do this.
Oh, stop being so selfless. It's nauseating.
Nerissa swings her powerful tail like a crocodile, sending Giselle flying as she just barely lands in a tangle of sparkling cables. Exterior of the crown, west face continuous. Watching this explosion of sparks, Edward suddenly remembers.
There's a positive charge and a negative.
What?
Edward continues to explain as they struggle to climb further. Exterior of the crown, south face continuous. The rain is unrelenting as Nerissa climbs higher with a panicked Robert. Giselle struggles to keep her grip on the wet cables.
Please let him go.
Careful what you wish for, Missy.
He lets out a cruel cackling laugh and continues to climb. Exterior of the crown, west face continuous. As Pip scurries over the cables to help Giselle, he suddenly feels a familiar fist around him. He turns to see it's Nathaniel.
We need your help. She needs it.
Pip's face immediately softens. Nathaniel said the magic words. Behind them, Edward carefully sorts through colored live wires. Exterior of the crown, south face continuous. As Nerissa makes it up to the spire with a panicked Robert, Giselle sees Edward across the crown, holding up 2 sparking wires. He points towards Nerissa. Giselle nods in understanding. Turning to Nerissa, Giselle takes a noticeably different approach.
Personally, Nerissa, I think your behavior is very sad.
Excuse me?
Pulling up as much cable as he can gather, Edward feeds the negative wire to Nathaniel, who loops the end of it.
I'm just saying, it seems like you have some major issues.
Distracted by Giselle, the Nerissa beast doesn't even notice the small chipmunk deftly climbing up to her swinging tail.
Issues? You're just trying to stall. Badly, I might add.
Pip gives a wave to Nathaniel, who throws the wire up to him. Pip loops the negative wire onto one of her tail spikes.
How could I trick you? You're obviously superior to me.
The negative wire slips off whenever Nerissa swings her tail.
Good of you to admit it, at least.
Pip attempts to reattach it, but Nerissa's tail keeps swinging it off, looping up the next cable. Nathaniel watches nervously.
I was reading last night in the famous women biography series about the psychiatrist Beatrice Hinkle.
Digging in his cheek, Pip pulls out the Mona Lisa salt shaker.
You read that?
Pip screws the Mona Lisa head onto the spike like an improvised wire nut to secure the wire.
You know I don't have any patience for this.
Nathaniel throws the next wire up to Pip, but it gets stuck on a stray piece of metal. Pip tries in vain to reach for it.
Dr. Hinkle had a theory that the way girls or women feel about themselves.
Panicked Pip reaches down for the positive wire, stretching his little paw as far as he can, but the wire is just out of reach.
It's all comes from how you were brought up. She calls it cultural conditioning.
What are you talking about?
Nathaniel and Edward look up at Pip with despair. Seeing their worried faces, Giselle keeps on talking.
It means you sat around acting pretty, waiting to be rescued and go live in the castle.
Suddenly, Pip is hit with an inspiration. Opening his mouth, the chipmunk reaches deep inside his cheek and pulls out.
When deep down you knew you didn't do anything to earn it.
The shiny bent nail he took at the start of our story, holding the nail head between his fingers like a handle.
Maybe that's why you're so insecure and angry at everybody.
Pip swoops down with a bent nail like a longshoreman's hook, deftly scooping up the looped wire end.
I'm sick of this nonsense. I'm going to drop him now.
Giselle yells out over the howling wind.
No, you can't. What is wrong with you? What makes you so nasty?
Even if she's about to end Robert's life, the queen offers a surprisingly wise smile as she answers.
It's simple, honey. I'm no damn good. Evil's not complicated, only love is.
Giselle's distraction of Nerissa allows Pip to toss the cable on the tail spire opposite the other wire, quickly jumping off as Nerissa turns around and just in time to helplessly realize 2 electric cables are attached to her tail, completing a circuit. 20,000 volts of electricity pass through the Nerissa beast, violently shaking her, consuming her, an explosion of sparks that reveal as they dissipate. The shock has transformed her back into the human queen. Pale, weak, and shaken, the queen's no longer able to support herself, let alone Robert, both her grips crumbling as they both fall off the spire. Desperately reaching out, Robert manages to grab onto the slippery spire with one hand, barely hanging on as Queen Nerissa keeps on falling. Giselle, Edward, Nathaniel, and Pip all watched in horror as Queen Nerissa falls, screaming past them, hurling helplessly tens of stories until she lands on exterior of the Chrysler building. Eagle gargoyles continues. One of the building's steel gargoyles, eagle heads. Nerissa desperately grabs to the wet metal, struggling to hold on before slipping off, completely plunging downward to her death. Exterior of the Chrysler building crown continuous as all eyes turn back up to Robert, desperately trying to keep his grip on the spire. Hold on, Robert. Oh, this is on me again.
Hold on, Robert.
His face fills with panic as his hands start to slip on the slick spire. 5 fingers, 4, 3 fingers, 2. Robert tumbles through the dark night, hands and legs flailing in an uncontrolled free fall over the side of the steel crown. As Robert falls in black space, by now too scared to scream, suddenly in the limbo of the dark night, two strong feminine arms appear, catching Robert with fierce determination and pulling him back. As we quickly dolly out to reveal Giselle, holding on tight to Robert as she falls back onto the slippery curves she's precariously balanced on. Robert looks at her with undisguised joy and amazement. She gives him a self-satisfied smile.
Is this a big habit with you? Falling off of stuff?
Robert turns to Giselle, his face filled with adoration.
Only when you're around to catch me.
They embrace in an absolutely unapologetically romantic storybook kiss. Pip and Nathaniel share an affectionate embrace as even Edward gives a chivalrous smile of approval. We hear an upbeat pop version of our original love theme, Dissolve To, interior Morgan's bedroom night. Robert sits on the edge of Morgan's bed as she readies for sleep. She's bursting with excitement.
Well, basically what happened was...
No, do it like a fairy tale.
Robert smiles, giving into it last her persistent request.
I guess I could give it a try. Once upon a time, in an enchanted kingdom known as Andalasia.
I know all that. Skip to the end.
Okay. After Giselle saved the day at the Chrysler Building,
interior, the Plaza Hotel ballroom night, the dance has ended, save for the musicians packing up for the night. A forlorn Edward walks down the ballroom staircase.
Edward returned to the ballroom. Having lost Giselle, he was unsure about returning to Andalasia and not quite certain where else to go.
Edward sees across the room a woman standing by herself.
Apparently, someone else is still lingering the dance as well.
Nancy, a bittersweet expression as she readies to go home alone, she suddenly notices on the floor Giselle's lost shoe. Reaching down, she picks it up, the irony of the lone slipper not lost on her. Tears start to fall as Nancy sinks like a fairy tale heroine and starts to cry.
Why the tears, beautiful lady?
Nancy looks up from her tears to see Prince Edward standing above her, offering a chivalrous handkerchief. She sniffles gratefully as they start to talk, their sadness quickly turning to smiles.
Hearing the prince's story, Nancy offered her sympathy, mentioning as they talked that
I think Giselle forgot her shoe. Jimmy Choo. Nice.
Looking into each other's eyes, Edward and Nancy suddenly share the same unspoken thought. Without saying a word, Edward takes off one of Nancy's own dress shoes and hesitantly slips on Giselle's.
It's a perfect fit.
Nancy's eyes go from the princess shoe on her foot and up to the prince himself. Their eyes ignite as invisible sparks fly. Exterior Times Square day. Prince Edward escorts Nancy back down the manhole cover. Exterior Andalasia, the palace animated. It's a glorious royal ceremony with all the trimmings as we see the prince getting married to Nancy, who's radiantly happy at the prospect of being a spoiled queen in a never-ending fairy tale.
And so in the end, Prince Edward did return to Andalasia and was crowned king alongside his beautiful new queen.
In mid-ceremony, Nancy's BlackBerry rings. Taking it out, she hurls it over her shoulder and it smashes down the palace steps. Interior Morgan's bedroom continues. Morgan sitting up in bed, beaming, listening, and craving more.
And Giselle? What happened to her?
You already know that.
Tell me again.
Exterior, the garment district day. Nancy's former studio, now redecorated for Andalasia fashions.
Inspired by the story of Coco Chanel in the Young Women biography series, Giselle took her flair for sewing and design.
Interior fairy tale fashions. Continuous, a stylishly dressed Giselle stands in smart glasses, surrounded by models, overseeing her new clothing line.
And with the help of her savvy new business partner and legal counsel, started a successful line of princess clothing, merchandising, and branding.
Robert works at her side, his BlackBerry cradled to his ear. Still working there, May smiles at the irony of this tableau. As an Armani-clad Nathaniel emerges from the throng of models, all smiles as a tall blonde beauty fawningly asks,
Nate, honey, could you zip me up?
I live to serve.
And what else? Tell me what else.
Interior, bowling alley night. Robert shows Giselle how to bowl, the both of them laughing.
Giselle and I went on a date.
Interior, a movie night. Giselle is crying her eyes out, Robert patiently comforting her.
And another one.
Exterior, tavern on the green night. Robert and Giselle laugh and smile under twinkling white lights.
And another. And we've been going out ever since.
Interior, Morgan's bedroom continuous. Giselle appears in the doorway, smiling, Pip at her side.
So did everyone live happily ever after?
Well, today was very happy. As far as tomorrow, with a little bit of effort.
Robert and Morgan look up at Giselle, happy to see her. Exterior Robert's apartment building continues. Through Morgan's window, we see Giselle walk into the room with Pip and take a seat with Robert on Morgan's bed, Pip joining them.
Anything's possible.
The three of them smiling and laughing as we dolly back. Exterior New York City continues. Out the window, tilting up to the stars over Manhattan. The disparate constellations suddenly twisting and converging, coming together like so much magic dust to form a dancing couple, gliding and spinning like a vision from a wonderful dream. Fade out, the end.
Thank you, everybody.
And that's the show. We did it.